happens. Is that better?
Much.
Much? Okay. So I just went through, for those folks online, I went through 2 slides on what we covered in the last 10 weeks. I'll let you skim that. Basically a summary of basically every module we covered, case study, and assignment, right? Golden nuggets. So this goes beyond the case studies, beyond what we talked about explicitly in class, right? Strategy should evolve as you implement. So what I'm starting with is this paradigm. You got strategists and implementers, engineers, if you will, that are writing code, project managers that are driving that code to completion, and strategists who are defining what that direction should be, right? What there should not be is a wall between them. There should not be a war between them, right? Strategy should inform implementation. Implementation should inform strategy, right? There should be a two-way street, a dialogue, right? An intimacy. I submit that the best strategists are engineers that understand the product. So if you want to be a really good strategist in your company, understand the products, how they're architected, how they're designed as an engineer, then move over to strategy. That way you understand the constraints and the capabilities, right? You're not going to be asking the engineers to do the impossible, right? And you're not going to let them hoodwink you in terms of what could be done or what should be done, right? Because you already know it. You've been there. You've seen it. You understand it, right? The best strategists understand the limitations and challenges of implementation. Strategy must acknowledge the limitation of implementation and the maturity of the technology. Strategy needs to factor in the ability of the ecosystem to support the change, right? Tesla acknowledged that they can't sell cars if you can't charge them. Now, why didn't GM do that? Why didn't Ford do that? Why didn't Volkswagen? Well, you could argue Volkswagen did that, right? They built the EA network, the Electrify America network. Yeah, with a gun pointed to their head. They did it because they had to by court order. But if the ecosystem isn't there, the product will likely not survive, right? So you have to somehow have the ecosystem built out, at least in parallel, or maybe even a little bit ahead of your product, okay?
And it's important to recognize that position in the overall strategy of things. If you get to a point where you recognize that the success or failure of your technology, your venture, whatever you're working on, is dependent on an ecosystem that you don't have or you don't have the ability to create, that tells you right away that you need to partner with someone who then does have that ability. The number of people who say, no, I'm going to reinvent the wheel all on my own, and then fail is astronomically high. Don't be too proud to say, all right, look, I invented a CT scanner, but if I don't sell it to GE Healthcare, there's no way I'm ever going to turn it into a business, which was a case study.
I'm a big fan of radical change. I'm a big fan of not just relying on incremental improvements. Incremental improvements are important, but radical change is what moves the industry and it transforms your company, okay? Too many radical changes lead to chaos, right? The ecosystem can only absorb so much radical change at once, right? On the other hand, too few radical changes leads to stagnation, and I'll just use the word death, right? Meaning you're kind of relying on an old technology, an old platform, and you've milked it beyond its normal useful life, right? And the market might be buying it until one day they won't. And it might be as dramatic as a step function, right? Where they're buying it one day and not buying it the next.
I'll add on to that, especially in terms of technology and especially in terms of technology strategy, do yourself a favor and equate stagnation with death. Stagnation is death for all living things. If a plant just stops, it's going to die. So if you find yourself in a place and you look around and you go, hey, this kind of feels like we're stagnating, change it, because that means you're already dead. The reality hasn't caught up with the reality yet.
Yeah, and the death certificate hasn't been filled out yet.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It doesn't mean it won't be. Right?
Yep.
It just means that the rest of the world hasn't perceived it.
Yep. The template's on the printer, just they haven't hit that.
They have to hit send, right? Never underestimate the user, their willingness and eagerness to accept new technology. You can convince yourself all you want that they're not ready for you They're not ready for your technology. They're not ready for this change. Trust me, they are. You just have to find kind of that linchpin, that issue that relieves their fears, their anxieties, right? Their hesitations. Never assume you control the market, as the market may soon control you, right? So you're not going to control the market. You're going to try to influence the market. You're going to try to leapfrog where the market is and be where the market wants to be, needs to be, is going anyways, right? There's no such thing as noise level competition, right? Until they shrivel up and collapse, or you do, right? Take all your competition seriously, even the ones that are not direct competitors, but they're considered alternative, right? Lots of examples of that. I don't want to get into examples, but strategy has to acknowledge the ecosystem realities, not the ecosystem fantasies, all right? And sometimes that requires you to help educate that market, right? Some imperatives: be modest, don't push people around. Another word for that is don't be arrogant. If you sense arrogance in your company, you know you're in trouble, right? Meet the company where he or she is, understand the fear, search for cost reduction, cut the fat, not the muscle. You know what I mean by that, right? It's great to save money, but don't think that that's innovation, right? That's just keeping the lights on. That's sweeping the floors at the end of the day. That's housekeeping, okay? You must do more than housekeeping to survive, right? Cost reduction alone is a recipe to fail. You must also innovate and iterate. The product is part of the experience, not the whole thing. Understand the totality of the user experience if you want to get ahead, right? Guess what? Mercedes-Benz, like I think I mentioned last week, the charging experience is something that they're putting money, time, and energy into. Up until 3 months ago, 4 months ago, it was off their radar. They've suddenly decided, wait a minute, we're Mercedes-Benz. We are not creating a Mercedes-Benz experience in our EVs. They're fixing that. And they're going to leapfrog. I believe they're going to leapfrog Tesla. Take a researcher's perspective, not a dictator's, right? You're not going to change the market by wagging your finger at it. Does anyone know the story of 1874 Andrew Carnegie? Does anyone know what business he was in?
Steel mills?
Steel. Yep, one word summarizes it. He was in the steel business. Steel before steel. Steel before the steel that we know today, right? Which is structural steel, steel products, steel in almost everything, right? We have steel in this room. We have steel keeping our roof above us, right? And keeping the cars above us from crashing down below, right? There was a lot of fear. People did not believe steel was a viable structural element in the way it was being used, because we were using far less steel than its iron equivalent. People thought it wasn't strong enough, right? They refused to believe that the product was going to work. So he literally hires a circus elephant to walk across this bridge, which happened to span the Mississippi River, that was built for the first time with his steel, okay? Why would he do that? And why would he line up his managers and his employees right behind them, right behind the elephant, to assure the buying public his product was safe, right? There's lots of examples, right? You either assure that your product is safe or the alternative product is dangerous, or maybe some combination of both, right? This guy named Otis did not invent the elevator, even though his name is on almost every elevator on campus. He invented the brake, the emergency brake that actuates when the cable is severed, okay? And that brake instantaneously stops the car from plummeting to the ground and killing all its occupants. Sounds like a good idea. Wow, maybe it's safe enough for human beings. Elevators were used for grain and all sorts of other things. Never human beings. Are you kidding? It's not safe. Otis made it safe, right? And to prove it, he put himself up to a 10-story building, and he was standing in the elevator with his emergency brake implemented and told his colleague to cut the cable, right? If his brake didn't work, he would plummet to his death. He didn't. It worked. The rest is history, okay? You have to assure the public that what they're doing, what you're doing is safe, it's efficacious, it's valuable, right? one way or the other. Comments?
No, I mean, other than, I don't know why industrialists of America ever got away from using elephants. Promotional materials. You got Carnegie, Edison. What's wrong with these people?
They liked elephants. I guess it was, it's commonplace in other countries, not so much in the US, right? But whatever. Always maintain the balance between innovation and implementation. This was a huge debate when I was in industry, right? Can an innovative company be good at implementation? Can a good implementation company be innovative, right? If you're focused on Six Sigma, can you really bring out high quality, innovative new products, right? Boeing is a great example, right? They somehow are able to do that. They only innovate every 10 to 15 years when they bring out a new aircraft, new platform. But in between those 10 to 15-year intervals, they are working on implementation, quality, yield, efficiencies, productivities, output, all of it. Everything you learn in operations management, everything you learn in supply chain management, everything you learn in quality management and process reengineering. That's what they're known for, right? I would say they're skewed towards the implementation side. Tesla, on the other hand, skewed to the innovation side, right? They like to bring out new stuff. I guess we'll find out if this Cybertruck's any good, right? That's their latest new thing after about 6 years. Innovators solve problems in new ways. They question why. They'll make statements like the best part is no part, right? That's Tesla's motto. They probably tattoo it on your chest when you get hired. The best process step is the one you can delete. And in the innovative world, deviation is a good thing, right? Because you're doing radical thinking, right? You're thinking outside of the box. On the Six Sigma world, the implementation side, right? They want you thinking inside the box, right? They want you to make that box better, faster, cheaper, right? Higher quality. Where was Motorola? I think we were kind of on the implementation side towards the end, right? We forgot about the innovation. We forgot about, new things. In fact, we saw deviation as a bad thing, and conformity was rewarded. And if you ask, why can't we have a smartphone? Sit down, right? Don't ask. Next question, right? Like, wait a minute, we used to do this. Can't we do it anymore? No, the market told us not to, right?
It's tough, right? I mean, deviation is another way of saying variability, and variability is the enemy of all manufacturing businesses.
Don't you hire people for their smarts? Don't you hire people for their ideas? Isn't a good idea, by definition, outside of the bounds of what you thought was a good idea yesterday, right?
And this is exactly why engineers should be running businesses.
Okay.
As long as you're leading the market, you become complacent with your processes, with everything, and you think you're right. You don't want to hear anything else. Hey, anything else, proven that they're not leaders. We're the leaders.
They're the leaders. They look to us to lead, whether they tell us or not. I've never been in a company where the engineers weren't the default leaders, the de facto leaders, the leaders de jour, whatever word you want to use. I guess I was torn with the metaphors to use, right? When this goes badly, it's like two trains colliding into each other, right? The innovation people, full speed ahead. The implementation people, full speed ahead. They're on the same track. They're going towards each other. They're going to demolish each other, right? There's got to be some better way for these two forces inside the company to coexist, right? So I thought, well, why not a tango dance, right? The two dancers, one wearing red, one wearing black, one male, one female, and yet very different, but very much following the same set of rules, right? Very much interacting with each other in a fluid way. It's not a massive collision, disaster, right? Death, destruction, right? It's beautiful. It's fluid, right? It's choreographed. Great sea captains are made in rough waters and in deep seas. I hate to say it, folks. I've been reading too many newspapers. I think we're in rough waters, and I think we're in deep seas. I hope I'm wrong. I'm hoping you'll come back in the winter and prove me wrong. That, Mark, everything's just fine. But the mental image I have is of this ship And really, as an architect, as a technology strategist, you're at the helm, right? You're setting the direction. You're finding that path through this chaos and through this craziness, right? You better have a strong vision as to where you're going, right? You can't let the winds dictate it to you, and you can't let the waves overrun your ship, right? It takes foresight, intestinal fortitude, strength, if you will, right? And the willingness to stand up for what you know is right, and not to cave into this group think that says, well, what we always have done is a lot easier than what you're talking about. Every radical change, that statement could have been made, right? Why move to steel? Oh, re-engineer all of our bridges, tunnels, and structures, building skyscrapers to 1,000 feet in the air. Are you crazy, right? Steel enabled that, right? If it weren't for the steel, we wouldn't be here in this building, right? Half of what you see in Chicago wouldn't exist, right? But one man, this Andrew Carnegie guy, right, who turned out later to be a billionaire, but because of all this, right, he had the vision, the foresight, and he committed himself fully to this endeavor. He knew the science, he knew the math, right? He was in the right, but it took psychology and sociology and a whole bunch of other things to bring everyone along with it. With that, I'm going to stop sharing. Any questions or comments? Willem, what did I miss?
Didn't miss anything. The only thing I can amplify is that if you're responsible for innovation and developing strategy, you have to be comfortable with failure. If you're uncomfortable, fail, and that you always have to succeed, you will inevitably not innovate. And that is a very tough thing to swallow, particularly for engineers.
Well, there's a flip side to that coin, though, right? So if you know you're going to fail, fail early,
Fail early,
fail small.
Fail small, fail often, but pivot frequently.
Pivot frequently and pivot towards goodness and away from failure, right?
Learn from it, right?
And learn from it.
Yeah. And also, in other words, you guys are coming out of the School of Engineering. You want to do engineering management, okay? And you're touching on your management responsibilities to understand people that don't understand you. That is something that you need to also come at peace with. And I'd just like to tell you a small little story. The leader brought 4 people or 3 people into his office, an engineer, an accountant, and a lawyer. And he asked, I have a problem and I want you guys to answer and give me a question. Simple fact. What is 2 plus 2? Very simple question. The engineer, first off, immediately, 2 plus 2 is, has been, and always will be 4. The accountant said, 2 plus 2 is somewhere between 3 and 5. Okay. And then the attorney was asked, well, Joe, what do you think? The attorney went and opened the door of the office, looked outside, closed it, and then walked up to the CEO and quietly said, what do you want it to be? Keep that in mind. That is the landscape you guys are entering.
Yeah, the fake news that we live with every day in the newspapers, we're living with in the workplace. There's a lot of fake news.
Yeah.
Right? Your team looks to you to decipher it, to interpret it, and to create reality for the team, right? Create reality means dissecting that which is real from that which is unreal.
Yeah. But there is also, in other words, a little flip side. In other words, most everything Mark said was that innovation and stagnation, if there is stagnation, there is death. As a strategist, And if you really want to be the strategist in your company, you also have to be able to strategize the path to death. Okay. I was a fresh MBA out of school, and I was thrown into a company that I should have closed. It was such a mess. But they never taught me in school how to close a company. They only taught me how to fix things and make it better. Okay, I was left without the tool to say the best thing I can do is to close this thing down. That needs to be in your tool bag. Keep that in mind. Coming up with a strategy to shut something down and to control the depth of it is a good strategy sometimes.
I was thinking about being confronted with a situation where I wanted to shut down new product development. It was a CAD system that we had built for Baltimore County. And I knew it was flawed, I mean, fatally flawed. The answer from senior management was we have no option but to continue fixing it. In essence, Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid. And I put a price tag on it of $4.5 million worth of Band-Aids and 13 months of time. That's what it'll take. That's what it'll cost. They said, fine, here's the check. Here's the calendar. You got 13 months. See you in 13 months. You better damn well be done. And I was. And I spent the $4.5 million. And I thought it was money badly spent, but I put the price tag on it. And I was the one who recommended that we shut it down instead.
Yeah.
They were dealing with the politics and I was dealing with the technology. And sometimes the politics wins, right? I mean, it was never really a product. It was a one-off from one customer. We were never to use it again. A cul-de-sac, if you will, instead of a roadmap. But it was an expensive one, a lesson that was learned across the company many times over. We never replicated that mistake. And it wasn't even my mistake, but I was the Red Cross, you see.
Yeah.
Be careful when you're the Red Cross. They start to blame the earthquake on you. Well, you were there. You had the Red Cross on your shirt and you were there at the earthquake, so you must have caused it. It's like, no, I came after the earthquake. Don't you remember? No, I don't remember that. I just remember that you were there with the earthquake, so you're to blame.
Because the earthquakes took 5 minutes and it was done.
Right.
Cleanup took 5
Years.
months,
Years. We're still cleaning up Katrina.
Exactly. So of course they're not going to remember that you showed up 10 minutes after the earthquake.
Exactly. So there's the politics and then there's the engineering reality. And I think, unfortunately, you have to manage both, right? The political reality was we didn't have the option of re-engineering from scratch. We had nobody to do it. We had to start with where we were. So you might find yourself in that same situation. All I can say is be honest, be as accurate as you can. And don't be afraid to jump in, because when I was jumping in, a lot of people were jumping off. They were afraid. They not only left the program, they left the company. That's how afraid they were, right? Because when you start running, you don't know when to stop, right? So you just said, oh, this is terrible. I'm going to keep running. And they ran into the arms of the competitor. I didn't do that. I ran into the problem while others were running away from the problem. So you have to decide what is your innate personality, right? I guess I'm a firefighter at heart. So with that, the sequence we're going to follow is SOA, preventive maintenance, followed by supply chain, and then customer experience, CDL, DLOS and refit, GPU, net zero, and stem loop. All right. 10 minutes for each team. When you're presenting, please come up front and share your screen. Preventive maintenance. You ready?
We are online, Professor. We'll share our screen.
Yeah,
You ready to go?
Right. Let me see. Oh, could you guys see my screen right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, can you all hear me, professors and everyone else?
Yes.
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 How about in the
Okay,
back?
good.
Here?
Okay, so we can start. Hello, everyone. We are Team 2, and we are all excited to present our IntelliFleet solutions to all of you today. With me, joining is Adit, Fida, and Iris. All of us have worked on this project, and so let's start. So the content, next slide, please. Yeah, so the content we would be following this flow. That is basically we'll start with what our technology is all about and why we decided to do this solution. And next is how that explains the technology behind this and who are our target audiences and users, and also where we'll be deploying our solution, and also the timeline and the roadmap. Next slide, please. So starting with what is our technology? So with the use of artificial intelligence, our telematic diagnostics system goes beyond the traditional maintenance practices. It offers real-time insights into the condition of the fleet vehicles. So basically by integrating AI algorithm with telematic data, we manage to proactively address the potential issues before they escalate or there is a breakdown. So it minimizes the downtime and also significantly reduces the costs for vehicle repairs. Next slide, please. Yeah, so thinking about why this solution is needed. So if we can imagine a scenario where there is a fleet vehicle experiencing breakdown. So obviously the sudden breakdown would cause delays and also increased repair costs. So our solution, with the integration of AI, we provide real-time data, and also what is the outcome of this solution. So basically it'll solve the vehicle breakdown before time, and proactively it'll manage its maintenance, and it'll also lead to the reduced repair costs, and it'll ensure timely deliveries. Next slide, please. We do have other alternatives if we look at these solutions, but let's look at what other alternatives are. So alternative one being the traditional reactive maintenance system. So of course, since it is a reactive maintenance system, there will be a downtime, and also it will not be having as advanced technologies as the predictive maintenance solution would be having. Going to alternate two, we have the manual telematic diagnostics, but without the AI integration. So it will not have the real-time data tracking, and also it will have a lot of dependency on manual analysis and also decision making. Alternative E being the predictive maintenance, but this one without the AI. So it has a limited adaptability to the real-time changes, and also the accuracy cannot be trusted in this solution. So these were the other alternatives that we looked into, apart from like what our solution was. So next slide, please. So doing a market research for our solution, we conducted 32 interviews, and we have come up with our data that 84% of the users, like the car owners or the fleet managers, they would like 84% of them said they would go for this technology if it were to exist in today's market, because they give more importance to the operations and also the efficiency, rather than having a sudden breakdown and putting in a lot of money to repair that vehicle. So we also put some of the quotes on this slide from the interviews, where it shows the significance of the predictive maintenance solution over a reactive solution. So yeah, I would like Adit to take up the next slide to explain how the technology would work here.
Yeah, hi. So I'll be walking you through a proposed tech workflow and the technology evaluation for this project. So basically, all the sensors in an automobile are connected to an onboard diagnostics module. The microcontroller in the module will collect and process the data and send it to the 5G-enabled SIM using the OBD2 adapter, which in turn will transmit the information to the AWS IoT Fleetwise service. Different vehicles have different requirements, but we need to integrate all kinds of data into a similar format to be understood by a machine learning model. The compiled statistical data and metadata will now be available to both the dealership and the fleet operator. The app dashboard will present the insights, priority, estimated time before breakdown, and suggested repairs to the user. Service centers will be requested to review the high priority issues and confirm or suggest repairs. The users can also make sure that the suggested software version is same as the one currently installed in the cars or not. If not, we will give an option to push an update over the air for the users. Next slide, please. So, like any other company out there, our technology has some capabilities that make our product a better fit for the fleet operators and a few limitations that come along with it. We don't want to just own the end software. We want to be a part of the whole process. We will directly get the data from the OBD port, not through the OEM suppliers, which ensures data privacy and security. Due to the high cost of false positives and negatives, the user will be able to see which repair has been advised or confirmed by the service centers. We intend to use sensors to monitor the health of more than just the obvious moving parts of a vehicle, like engine oil and braking oil, and also provide GPS coordinates in real time. The optimized resource allocation could be a value-added service that we intend to provide in the future to the users. The car manufacturers can provide us with ideal software version for a vehicle. The user can see which one is running at the moment and request updates. As for the limitations, the service centers might have heavier involvement than average in the beginning because our model would be in the initial stages of learning at the time. Sometimes the mobile network can be spotty and there might be a delay in the data hitting our servers. For someone not so adept with technology, this tool can feel a bit difficult to use. So dealers or big fleet operators might get inclined to hire someone to monitor the app and to respond accordingly to ensure seamless operations. The last limitation for our technology that stares right in our face is probably the biggest one. Machine unlearning has been a big concern in today's AI-driven world. It is still an open issue as to how would someone completely erase a user's information from a machine learning model's weights if they don't want to use our services after being on board for some time. Next slide, please. And Fida will take over from here. Thank you.
Yeah, so our value proposition to fleet managers is this: will help you redefine fleet maintenance. You can say goodbye to cumbersome manual processes and welcome improved efficiency, reduced downtime, increased productivity, and enhanced tracking and reporting. So not just helping you with maintenance, but also helping you track and report where your fleet vehicles are, how your drivers are doing. And in terms of value, this means increase vehicle uptime by up to 25% and save up to $2,000 per vehicle per year by preventing costly repairs, reducing downtime, increasing safety, and maximizing vehicle lifetimes. And our standout feature is prioritized fault code system. So we not only identify the issues, but we help explain the causes behind them. So enabling confident decision-making for you and instant service bookings within the system. And that's not all. Our solution not only benefits fleet managers, but also dealerships with telematic diagnostics, empowering them with preemptive servicing for efficient fleet management. Next slide, please. So for our target market, first of all, when it comes to fleet management market, it's a well-growing market with an anticipated growth rate of 15 to 20% in the initial 2 years, especially propelled by the escalating adoption of AI solutions within the industry. And for our target market segmentation, our primary focus is on communication and network suppliers within the fleet management sector itself. So this is due to a combination of reasons. One, this segment will be a win-win situation for both us as well as the network suppliers, because it will prove pivotal due to its direct access to critical vehicle data and its role in facilitating the integration of telematic solutions to our software or to existing infrastructure of fleet vehicles. Another reason is market nature and the nature of fleet sizes and companies. So the way this market is in US, functionality takes precedence over brand preference in our target market, which means many companies adopt to choosing vehicles that are the same build and design. So we emphasize the functional aspects of our solution, and this will help us fine-tune our solution to fit as many vehicles as we could, and also help in reducing operational cost by up to 20%. And so when we look at how fleet vehicles are distributed across fleet sizes, about 38% goes to fleet sizes that have more than 1,000 vehicles, a lot of vehicles. And we know that there are a lot of big giants as our competitors who would be catering to these ones. But we are focusing on the ones below, like 9,000, below 500 fleet sizes, not only because it will help us establish a foothold in the market. Also, we have noticed that not many of the small-sized fleet managers outsource their vehicles. So if you look at that, if you look at the data compared to big, large fleet sizes, the smaller ones opt for in-house management, and this is where we hope we'll get an easier access with our AI-enabled predictive maintenance solution and helping them helping us cater to the specific needs of the smaller fleet managers and then expand from there. Next slide, please.
You're 1 minute. You're already 1 minute over time, so try to wrap it up.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So, apart from the big names, there are only a few emerging startups that are providing similar service to ours, and we are differentiating ourselves by our strategic partnerships, like the one that I mentioned with network suppliers, and also with our collaboration with dealerships. So we'll be able to get feedback from the dealerships and incorporate it back into our algorithm, enabling us to refine our algorithm and ensuring precision and reliability. And over time, we are also hoping to make it into a full solution by adding more features that are relevant for fleet managers, like compliance, monitoring services, asset tracking, and driver behavior. Over to you, Iris.
So talk about like our revenue generation. We focus on the 3 streams. So our primary stream will be the subscription model, and user could just like spend $50 per month per car. They could enjoy the end-to-end like service, like without need to think about anything about technology side. And in this way, it can help them save like $4,000 or like dollars per month per vehicle. And our other potential model is like usage-based models. We provide like users with semi-integration or full integration with our advanced machine learning model, or give like insurance company user behavior data. And also we will do like advertisement, like at our website for like car repair center or like fleet manufacturing. And we all believe our business is like sustainable, because after 3 years, the ratio of like CC to like a CLV will be +4. And this is our roadmap. For the first like the 6 months, we will focus on the technology development and the market, and also like some IP application. And the second stage, we'll focus on develop our MVP, combine the hardware side and machine learning side. And also like we gather our feedback from our city user and integrate the sensors and vehicle system. And like furthermore, we will focus on the feature enhancements based on the user feedback. And the next part, we will focus on the user groups with, using the CRM system. And like at the technology side, we will like expand our computing resources. And for the future like development, we will focus on some premium feature like financial report and mobile-based CMS like software, and with our diversified like revenue models. Besides that, we will embrace like more advanced technology like VR, AR, and like also like some dash cam analysis. And this part will be our conclusion. So we will cover all the things we mentioned. And because of time limit, I will not like highlight here again. So this is like all our introduction for our projects. Thank you for listening. And right now is the Q&A time.
Okay, thank you. Nice job.
Good job.
Your presentation got much more sophisticated versus the previous versions. I think you guys did an excellent job. All I can say is that your technology probably needs a little bit more of a deep dive. Your OBDC device is new. I assume it's a new architecture, new design. I'm assuming it's not something off the shelf. So I think a little bit of a deeper dive to understand how that's architected, what it would look like, how you keep from draining the car battery, what kind of communication protocol you're going to use, et cetera, et cetera. And whether you're adding additional sensors or using the sensors that are already in the car would have been, I guess, good to understand as part of your roadmap to say, okay, maybe you start with the already OEM outfitted sensors and progress to more customized sensors as you, build out your roadmap. Your value proposition needs to be equated from a user perspective, translated to user-centered terms that are quantitative. So if they're going to spend, I don't know what the number was, $500 a year or $1,000 a year, what kind of return are they going to expect from that? How much savings will they get? And what's the expected value of not having to replace an engine or not having to do as many oil changes? I'm not sure exactly where the savings are, but laying that out in a more quantitative fashion would have been my big suggestion.
Yeah, I think just to add on top of that a little bit, the value proposition, right, is really what are you doing unique in the market that nobody else is? What value are you adding to the market on top of your competition? And I don't know that really came through very well. I mean, you had the slide on competition, but I'm kind of still failing to see what about your solution in particular makes you so much better than the competition that you're going to blow them out of the water and everyone should invest in you instead of just going with the Ford solution or some other solution that's already further along and developed. So I think really finding that, what is it that makes you really unique and special? Is it the custom sensors or, what is that? And really highlighting how that solution is so much better than the alternatives that are already available in the market. I think that would go quite a far distance. But really at the end of the day, quantifying that value proposition in terms of actual dollars benefit to the user, I think that would be a little bit more compelling.
I mean, this is your turf, right?
I think the team understood the hypothesis of the work. I think they elaborated on that really well. They studied the market. They analyzed the market really well. They put together their proposal well. They have the foundation, right? Now, the niche would be the sensors, really. Which sensor pays more back, is payback? The existing sensors, probably a lot of people are already using. So where their niche market is to find out which sensor adds more value to the fleet market and how to define it and how to design it. If you add that to your proposal, I think that will add a lot of value to your proposition. And also, $50 per month per car for a fleet of 500. I think it's a little bit too much. It would be like $600 per year per car for 500 unit. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It depends though on how much it saves.
That's why if the sensors that you're coming up with is a breakthrough, then your proposition is good. And the second thing is pay a little bit more attention on the AI side. How do you use the AI? I mean, how the machine learning will add value to this proposition you have. It didn't come out that well of how you're going to be using, but if you spend a little bit of time on that side, I think it would be a very good proposition.
Well,
I didn't see, I might have missed it, but what is the cost for a fleet manager of unscheduled maintenance? Because that is truly your market. Your market is not the $56 billion of fleet management. Okay, your market is unscheduled maintenance and the cost impact of that. And I did not see by fleet size or by other elements what size that consists of, because that will tell you whether you should charge $50 a month, $5 a month, or $500 a month. Because once you have a handle on that cost, now you can set the price for eliminating it, cutting it in half, cutting it by 10%, whatever your AI model you're forecasting is going to do to that unscheduled cost. Okay, that I think you need to wrap up. Your understanding of the market is remarkable. You guys have done over the last 10 weeks, something that when you started out, you didn't have a clue. Now you have a thorough understanding. Great job. But if you want to take this to the next level, get to the meat of what you're trying to address.
Yeah, what sensors you're going to be adding, what sensors you already have from the OEM side, what incremental value those sensors bring. Is there anything you can protect from an IP perspective? You can file patents for any of this.
If the battery never is replaced on an emergency basis, don't monitor it. Okay, there is no reason, because you're not reducing a cost monitoring the battery if batteries are never replaced on an emergency basis.
I'll tell you, I mean, if they could do the brake pads and the brake pads can be replaced before the rotors warp, you're saving money.
Yeah.
Right? If you wait until the rotors are warped, you're replacing rotors and pads, right? So is there a sensor that's needed for that? Can that be wired into the bus? Can OBDC detect that? Those are the questions I have, right?
But great job, particularly in the time frame you guys had. Okay, nice presentation.
Yeah, you spent a lot of time on the quality of the presentation. The production value was quite high, so thank you.
Good
job.
Well done. Supply chain, you're next. Supply chain, you're up.
Professor, before this start, I had a quick question.
Sure.
We were supposed to flip the roster. We are not doing that.
Oh,
the
you mean like
lineup is-
stem loop first as opposed to?
That was,
way?
yeah, that was the expectation of us coming down today, right?
Okay. I guess I can flip that around. Is that gonna be disruptive for anyone? Is that okay? So does that mean we want stem loop to go next? Well, I'll work from the bottom up. Stem loop, are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Take it away.
All right, go for it.
Stem loop is used to going after 9 o'clock at night, so sometimes close to 10 o'clock, so
They'll be much more awake for this.
I'll be much more awake. I'll get a longer list of feedback this way too.
Good presentation.
Hi, Professor. Like before the next meeting start, we want to highlight here. We did like research about like why like $50 per month. It's like we're helping the fleet manager for their downtime for like 4,000 because per day per day, usually for like large like fleet car, they usually like during downtime they cost like $400 to $700. So this is why we price like in that way. We also like do research about like they will willing to purchase with this price.
Yeah, we're not trying to question the pricing. We're just trying to understand the value prop and the value you bring versus the costs. So stem loop, you've got 10 minutes. Are you ready to go? Yeah. Okay, take it away. 7:30, 7:34.
Hi guys, so this is Parker with Team StemLoop. We're gonna jump right into it. So StemLoop is a company that creates biosensors. There's 3 things that you need to know about these. They are customizable to a diverse array of analytes. They have a high sensitivity, and they are better than traditional methods in both the detection threshold and the speed at which they detect the analyte. Some of the objectives that StemLoop had was to provide actionable, accessible data to its users. It wanted to provide superior sensing at an unmatched scale and address broad global challenges across different industries. Our scope of work, or our statement of work here, is to evaluate the technical capabilities of the technology, conduct user customer interviews, understand the market, identify potential markets, and then analyze the alternatives that we have, propose a beachhead market, and then do some unit economics to make sure that it all makes sense. This is a solution summary. I'm going to tell you about what solution we finally arrived at in terms of the beachhead market. So consumer products is the market that we're targeting. Consumer products are technically under a lot of scrutiny for a lot of different things. That could be pathogens, heavy metals, toxins, etc. The traditional testing methods that exist in these markets are very capital intensive. They're time-taking, slow, and complex. Our solution is to use STEMLOOP's technology to make these faster, but not just meet regulatory standards and help those companies comply, but actually help them save money in the process so that they don't have to invest a lot of capital into testing equipment, etc. There's two things that I want to talk about, an addendum to this summary. One of the QA/QC managers that we spoke to at a large shampoo manufacturing facility told us that recently some of their standards changed for testing the quality of their shampoo, and then that drove their cost up by 9 times because of the additional equipment, additional reagents, additional kits that they had to order. The second thing I want to highlight here is that chemical testing is a $50 billion market. 50% of that market is right now consumer packaged goods. This is STEMLOOP's value chain. We've got support activities and primary activities. I'm just going to run through this. Inbound logistics, so we try to procure the materials, the reagents necessary to manufacture the sensors. Then there's the operations part where you actually, currently they're doing it by hand, but eventually once you get to scale, you have like manufacturing, assembling, and you've got outbound logistics in terms of distribution, inventory, order fulfillment, etc. The marketing and sales portion is more about understanding market research and the service after sales support, etc. Technology evaluation and performance curve. So capabilities, like we already said, high sensitivity limit, rapid response rate, and customizable to different chemicals are the capabilities, but at the same time, limitations. This only provides go, no-go data as opposed to quantitative data. So I'm not going to know how many parts per million a certain chemical is. I'm just going to know whether it meets a certain threshold or not. Secondly, it can be sensitive to environmental factors. So like pH, temperature, the strips could be, the testing equipment could be sensitive to that. And then obviously there's a lot of R&D effort required to expand on the number of analytes that you're testing. But this performance curve that we created basically highlights how we can sort of leapfrog into, or leapfrog the performance from the infancy stage all the way up to maturity, and then jump that whole S-curve up once we have further arrays of sensors and further technology improvements. Maybe we figure out a way to have quantitative data as opposed to go, no-go. The roadmap here, phase 1 is going to be consumer packaged goods. Phase 2 is going to be expansion into process industries, healthcare, technological advancement. I'm going to hand it off to Jyotika, and she's going to talk about why we chose CPG and why that market makes sense.
So the reason why we chose CPG was regulatory simplifications. A lot of awareness is around consumers regarding the quality and the safety of the packaging material. So that is one of the reasons as well. And the scalable economics. We can utilize the CPG scale for higher margins and sustainable growth. One of the main reason that we identified was risk diversification. Shifting to CPG could mitigate a sector-specific risk. And the collaborative expansion, we could use the ecosystem for broader engagements and the growth. Now, apart from the beachhead market, we also identified a couple of alternative applications wherein STEMLOOP technology can fit in. It was veterinary medicines. We also identified the pros and cons for each of the alternative applications. For GMO monitoring, for example, we can have accurate traceability, and as a con, resistance to GMO producers is one of the cons that we identified. Similarly, for environmental contamination monitoring, the complexity in having the sample collected is one of the cons that we identified. And the pros could be the broad range of detectable contaminants that is available. So this is our alternative application slide. Now, the reason for choosing testing of heavy metals in packaging, particularly the lead, cadmium, mercury, and hexavalent chromium, was that out of the 19 US states, California, New York, Illinois have mandatory compliance for these heavy metals, and combined the allowable limits is 100 ppm. And the adherence to model toxins in packaging is something that is, that is a standard that has been set. Now the path to our beachhead market was that we analyzed the consumer packaging industry as a whole, in which we had interviewed few of the QA and QC managers from these verticals, and upon our interviews with those managers, we identified that these are the common chemicals that are being tested in those industries, and what we found out that the 4 common chemicals were lead, cadmium, mercury, and hexavalent. So that's why we are more focusing on testing these heavy metals in the packaging industry. Now, for working hypothesis, we had like a couple of hypotheses, like the critical need for rapid on-site testing, then the competitive advantage that we could provide over the laboratory methods, and the readiness of the technology for innovation, and also the feasibility of integration into the existing testing framework that we have. And drawing from the insight that we read from one of the articles in Act Like a Scientist, we kind of refined our assumptions and adjusted our hypothesis and strategies based on market feedback and pilot outcomes. Now, the key takeaways that we got from the interviews from the QA and QC managers were that there's a recurring theme of concern specific around these heavy metals. We realized that there is a potential for a biosensor solution that could integrate seamlessly with the existing testing protocols. So that's why we decided to focus on the CPG sector. And we discovered that the biosensor technology could provide a competitive edge by offering speed, accuracy, and scalability. And realized that the potential for STEMloop's technology to serve as both preliminary and confirmatory test in manufacturing to reduce the reliance on slower and more expensive laboratory methods. Now I'll give it to Aman to talk about the market.
I'll quickly browse through the market analysis that we carried out for our beachhead market, and then our market for testing in consumer packaged goods as well. This is still at a very high level. We need to carry out some significant amount of research to sort of validate these numbers. But the slide that you can see here is for the value proposition which Yutika just mentioned about testing of the 4 heavy metals in the packaging industry, where we see that our SOM comes out to be around $74 million. And adding on to what Bakir initially mentioned, where the chemical testing services industry in CPG is around 52 billion, scaling down that to in the application, we estimate a serviceable obtainable market of around $1.3 billion. Now, I would like to dig deeper and sort of focus on different aspects in which STEMloop differs from the existing practices. So a couple of pointers here to mention is that the present testing methods which are used, the mass spectrometry and the X-ray fluorescence, they are accurate, but they are time and resource intensive. And the thing is that they require specialized resources. Our positioning of STEMloop is not as an alternate to these testing procedures or methods. It is sort of to act as a complementary tool. and focus on efficiency and sort of integrate stem loop as a prerequisite to these testing procedures. We did some initial level of competitive analysis here as well, and the closest competitor that we could find out here was Hygenia. Thermo Fisher Scientific is a company which is largely focused on lab testing, but Hygenia is a company which at present manufactures biosensors. But when we compared the pricing for stem loop versus Hygenia, we found out that Hygenia was on the upper end of the spectrum. This is a business model canvas which evolved over time, and we kept narrowing down to reach our beachhead market. This is a high-level unit economics as well, where we try to do two versions, one with low volume and one with high volume. So our initial interviews with Khalid led us to a few things, where he also mentioned the effect of economies of scale. At present, they are manufacturing the strips, which is costing them around $20. And he said that the costs can be brought down to around $5 to $6 per strip. And we see that the two versions, obviously this does not include the fixed cost. That could be the R&D, the development cost, the infrastructure cost. This is per unit economic that we have calculated here. We see that on low volume, we have a gross profit of around $2.6 per strip, and on high volume, we have around $10 to $11 per strip. These are few risks, issues, and mitigation strategies that we have tried to highlight. A couple of pointers I would like to mention here is about the technological risk. So our initial interview with Khalid, where he mentioned about the IP, and there are a few competitors which are sort of working on a similar technology. So how do we protect the IP, and then how do we implement the applications for those particular technologies? Something that we need to keep in mind. Just to conclude, a couple of things that we derived out of this entire exercise over the last quarter. We validated the need of stem loop in different industries, and then narrowed down our market from healthcare, agriculture, from CPG to a beachhead market of testing of heavy metals in packaging. And then we identified where stem loop can add value to these industries, and that is in providing faster, more reliable, and accurate results. As next steps, what we would like to do is launch a pilot program where we engage with different stakeholders across these industries, and also would like to conduct a deeper market research where we conduct interviews from companies which are specializing in packaging, and also interviews of competitors who are already into this industry. Yeah, thank you.
Right, nice job. Great job. So in general, I don't think there's anything I can criticize about your presentation, except obviously it was too long. In general, people should limit themselves to 10 to 12 slides. If you're trying to get it done in 10 minutes, you can't do more than 10 or 12 slides, even if you're running through your presentation, which I think to a large extent you kind of were. And I apologize that we couldn't give each team 20 or 30 minutes, but we would be here until midnight. So I don't want to do that. I will say that this, of all teams, you should seriously consider creating a poster for our poster session coming up on Industry Night in February. The reason being our theme is connected health. And this is as close as we're going to get from this class when it comes to connected health. So definitely make a poster of this, and make sure you give a report to Khalid, the PI. I'm sure he's going to appreciate this. We've been using this product, this technology for years in classes like this, and I've never seen this recommendation before. And I think it makes a lot of sense. I like it because it's a testing regime that's already in place, and you're replacing something that's already there. I've seen vitamins and all sorts of, home lead tests and things that frankly don't exist in the market. Trying to create something that doesn't exist in the market versus replacing an incumbent where you have a cost advantage and an efficacy advantage is kind of a no-brainer. I mean, if I ran a company that was in CPG, I'd buy it in a minute. I mean, based on what you just presented. So nice job.
I love just how broad selection you guys went through to cross off your list before you landed on consumer products. To the layperson, right? STEMLoop has lead testing strips that they're implementing in Chicago. To the layperson, it's like, well, yeah, they didn't go that far. You guys took the long way around. You took the long way around. And I love that you wound up back in a position that is completely complementary to their existing structure, their existing growth path. You're adding value on top of that, but you didn't take the short way to just pivot. You went all the way around. You crossed everything else off your list. It's exactly how it should be done. I think you did a great job of explaining that process. I think you could shorten that up a little bit. Some of those graphics were incredible. They told your whole story visually. You don't need to go into in-depth verbal detail. I think it steals away from the message a little bit. And I wonder how much dollar value benefit there is in the market. It's there. This is a no-brainer. Go forth without that information, but it would still be lovely to have.
Yeah, fantastic job. Charge the PI $99,000 because that's what they would pay to a consulting company to come up with.
Well, and the
a product
consulting
like
company
this.
would do half as good a job, I
Yeah,
swear.
okay,
So
so
with a
just
$1,000 discount, it would have been 100,000?
Yeah. because they're students.
Oh, I see. Okay, there's students that get $1,000
Yeah,
discount.
yeah.
Okay.
But great job, they did a good job, but you emphasized numerous times in your presentation that less than 30 minutes to get results. You never quantify that as a value. What is the value of 30 minutes versus 3 days versus a day? You left me hanging on that. Okay, you might want to button that up even for your poster competition. Yeah, you clearly made an argument. It is faster, it's more accurate. Okay, more accurate is a value proposition in many different people's mind, but the less than 30-minute statement needs additional value attachment. Great job.
And I can only suppose that if you're in a high-speed manufacturing environment, 30 minutes of production has a value versus what the normal detection time would be. So you're going to, if you have a problem, you will waste a whole lot more in the old scheme versus the new scheme. So that might be an approach.
And one of the other things that it didn't suffer from the lack of, but to take this one step further, when you're looking specifically at heavy metals and consumer packaged goods, where are those heavy metals entering the chain? Because the further upstream that you can catch them, the less work is put into a garbage product. And you can quantify that. That's more easily quantifiable.
Yeah. I'd like to also comment on this, the 30 minutes thing that, maybe that's on average. I would have liked to see like a curve then based on the volume, because you may be smaller volume manufacturing as a large volume manufacturing, what would be that trend? And that would add value to your slides as well. But it was good job. I mean, I didn't know STEMLoop that much, so I learned quite a bit from this presentation.
This is the future, guys. Sensors, IoT, and STEMLoop has got so much flexibility and capability. I have great hope for that company. Like any platform, though, they have this problem of being universally applicable. How do you find the right target? And they've been bouncing around from one beachhead to another. That's no way to run a business. But great job. So nice. Thank you. Next up is Net Zero, the jet fuel folks. And while they're setting up, let me ask the STEMLoop guys, what did you get out of this whole class? Was this a valuable exercise for you?
I think the best part about it is not being 100% sure about what the technology is, but then separating the details and the nitty gritty and just trying to understand, okay, this is what it can do potentially. This is what it can't do. And where do we take that from there?
And being comfortable with ambiguity. If I put you in that spot and you learned, fantastic. That was the intent.
because the business people are even more comfortable with ambiguity, okay? That is an advantage that business people have over engineers. And I've now, I think, pushed you a little closer to that middle ground where, okay, you don't have to know every line of code. You don't have to understand every atom in the structure. You're okay with having a general understanding of how it works, right? So with that, take it away, bio-derived chemicals.
Thank you. So we formerly were known as Net Zero Jet Fuel, but we have rebranded to bio-derived chemicals. To get started, the problem that we're trying to address is that these huge industries emit an alarming amount of CO2, like the waste management industry, petrochemical industry, aviation industry. This technology aims to divert waste from landfills to be converted to useful chemicals and achieve net zero emissions in various industries, like the ones I just mentioned, by creating wet waste-derived sustainable chemicals. This technology comes out of NREL. I'll go over how it works in a little bit, but right now the technology is on a readiness scale of 4, so it's pretty early on, and we recommend the next steps to increase that number to prove that the process works, get regulatory infrastructure on board, scale up, and obtain more subsidies. So how does this technology work? From a very high level, we obtain waste from landfills. That would be food scraps, grease, sewage. There's no shortage of waste. And then we utilize methane and CO2 that's just naturally generated from this waste that's breaking down. And then the technology comes in. There are 3 different stages of chemical processing that produce several useful chemicals along the way. And then these useful chemicals are currently derived from fossil fuels, but ours are completely sustainably derived and of equal quality. This technology provides the potential to cut down emissions in areas of the product's entire life cycle. So for example, it's embedded energy. Instead of drilling for oil, we use existing waste that's there. So just a technical evaluation, this technology is capable of producing a bunch of different useful chemicals. I've listed a few here. So for example, kerosene, we get the jet fuel, clean diesel fuel. You can also create chemicals that are used in the cosmetics industry, the pharmaceuticals industry. There's just a ton of opportunities here. The limitations though, the biggest one is the high level of R&D that's still needed to scale up this technology. So our preferred application is the chemicals industry. The competitors so far for these bio-derived chemicals, there are 2 small companies, BioVeritas and Chaincraft. The advantages of going into the chemicals industry is that it's a growing market, and then there are several uses for our product that I just mentioned. The disadvantages, one big one is that the petrochemical companies like Dow and BASF, they are large and in charge, but their products do rely on limited resources and government regulations are not in their favor. There are alternative applications to our technology. The one that we've been talking about all quarter long is aviation fuel. Advantages, there are an increasing amount of government incentives that could make aviation fuel competitively priced in the future. Disadvantages, it's highly regulated. Clean diesel fuel is also an alternative application. The environment is already there. The emissions regulations, that kind of helps the environment is there to promote clean diesel fuel. Disadvantages, it's a highly competitive industry. And then we also think racing and motorsports would be an interesting alternative because it is a highly visible platform for testing new technology. Imagine this in F1 or IndyCar. And the disadvantages would be that this is a niche market and they also have strict regulatory requirements. Here is our performance curve. So early on, we want to get into the chemicals industry. And then once we have more time, then we want to pivot into clean fuels. And finally, we would eventually like to get into the sustainable aviation fuel. So I'll pass it off to Alberto.
Thanks, Marlon. So I'm going to talk about the segmentation that we did. As Madeline mentioned, we started with the sustainable aviation fuel, but due to the complexity from a compliance standpoint, and also because of the relatively small market size of this market, we pivoted. If you see the market that we have selected, that we have broad enough, calling it specialized chemicals, has about a 10x increase in market size if we were to go with sustainable aviation fuel. And if we break it down, it's mainly the pharmaceutical, it's the market leader there, and the other high performance materials with the second one. So there's definitely a much broader demand for this product. The final thing that I'll say on this slide is that really, since we're on such a initial stage of this product, is really hard to at this point pinpoint what's going to be our main differentiator. So the broader the segment we have, and the less constraint of a segment we have, the better chance we have to really find a differentiated sweet spot. So that's another good benefit of having focusing on the specialized chemical segment. Next slide, please. Our value proposition for the chemical industry. The first and foremost, environmental sustainability. The main value add is lower greenhouse emissions to support the initiatives and the requirements that these industries need to abide by any federal governmental regulations. Secondly, we're betting that our process, which will be much more controlled and predictable than fossil fuel based processes, that should enable to have a much more stable cost that is not dependent on worldwide events. So in the long term, this should be a lower cost and better solution for our customers. I'll finish here with technical compatibility. We're shooting to matching or exceeding the performance of traditional fuels into existing infrastructures. Next slide, please. This is the value chain segmentation. Walk through this quickly, where we have, from left to right, we have the raw material suppliers, which are the ones that generate this waste. So the value add that we bring, we're right in the middle here as the manufacturers, is that we are putting this waste to use and converting it into fuel that is then distributed by the other point in the value chain, that is then sold to the end user. And then we are collaborating with the research labs to generate the underlying technology for this. Now I'll pass it through for the next slide. Thanks.
So yeah, throughout the course of this quarter, we constantly refined our business model canvas. And since finally we are focusing on the chemical industry, so we had some changes in our customer segments, the value propositions we offer to them, and then the sources of our revenue stream. So accordingly, we were able to modify our business model canvas, which suits the chemical industry. So talking about the unit economics, so we have done the unit economics based on the data we got from NREL. And so this is particularly based on the VFA SAF. and this is an estimated cost. So the estimated cost for the upgraded BFA, which would be used in the chemical industry, would be somewhat similar. So the cost which comes out at the end of this, all the calculations we do, I think it should be somewhat similar to that. So here are some of the key assumptions we take before we go about to calculate our unit economics. So we start with the plant scale. It is about 250 US tons of food waste per day. Then we have the VFA yield, which is about 0.45 kg of dry food waste. And so the important point here is the fuel selling price, which you're taking into account, is about $2.5 per GGE. And then the total VFA SAF production, which is about 0.94 million gallons per year. On the next slide. So if we do the cost breakdown, in capital investment, we are spending about $47,006,000, and then in operating costs we are spending about 2,348 million, and in the revenue which we get out of this SAF production is 0.494, which is the million gallons of fuel produced into the fuel selling price. Next slide. So if we calculate the capital cost per gallon, it comes out to be about $5, and then the operating cost is about $2, and the revenue which we're generating is $2 per gallon. So in a way, like if you're not getting any subsidy from the government or any grants, we are at a loss in this process. So if we consider that we are getting about $5 per gallon of subsidy from the government, then in that case, if we do our calculations again, we are able to generate some amount of profit, and we'll be able to make around $5 per gallon of SAF produced at the end. So what we understand through this process is that the subsidies and the government grants are a very important part of this whole process for it to be profitable, even if we are targeting the chemical industry space. But yeah, that's it.
All right, nice job. You did a well done job. My feedback is I think your unit economics is probably the best I've seen, very detailed. On the other hand, the conclusions weren't that satisfactory because you don't want a business that's relying on government subsidy. So I guess the question would be, over time, do you see any kind of performance curve that would allow this to become a profitable enterprise as time goes on, right? As the volume increases, perhaps 1 or 2 or 3 years from now, do you see any kind of cost improvement over time?
I think cost improvement would be in terms of sourcing the feedstock. If we're able to get that cheaply, or maybe we are getting paid for the feedstock we procure. In those terms, we'll be able to cut down on the costs, because otherwise the process which is involved in the overall process of VFA production to its upgradation to SAF, that is a very cost intensive process. So the only place where we can cut down on the cost is that portion.
I think you missed the opportunity for the simplest possible answer. And there's only one thing missing from the very end of the presentation, and that was, here's our unit economics. This is why we're not beachheading into aviation fuel. Right there. I mean, I really, really love this. I love that you focused on aviation fuel the vast majority of the quarter, and then you expanded beyond that, which was something that I had suggested near the beginning, and you went through all the math to figure out why that was necessary, and you showed it to us. And your technology roadmap, your overlapping S curves, I think were absolutely perfect from not only a costing, but in particular a regulatory standpoint. I think I wish maybe your presentation had just tied that story together a little bit better. There were very clear reasons why you stepped from those 1, 2, 3. Did a little bit of job of elucidating that in your presentation, but I think the real story is how well you wrap your hands around the dynamics of all 3 of these markets and understood how to maximize the value you can deliver by doing these steps in this order based on the information that you received from the market.
You think they should have resequenced their slides?
No, I think the slides were great. I think at the end, if you had just added one more little bit about maybe resequence is a better term, because if you take the unit economics and you put that in front of the S curves, right? You say, look, this looks great, but we don't want a beachhead here because it's too unstable based on the subsidies. Then you can show the S curves. You can say, so we're going to start in the place with the least regulatory oversights, the least restrictions to allow for us to have the maximum freedom for success.
Specialty chemicals.
Yeah.
Which is not what you did your unit economics on.
Yeah.
So if you're going to compete, which I would encourage you to compete, there's all sorts of money for, I guess, clean tech energy projects, which this fits very well within. Not only resequence, but then do the subsequent unit economics on your specialty chemicals. Because effectively you're saying, here's a unit economics on something we're not doing, and we told you 5 slides ago that we're not doing it.
Yeah. I understood I understood it to be a relatively late in the quarter pivot, but Mark's certainly not wrong.
Right.
But one of the things that I would encourage you to continue on with this in particular, you saw how hard NREL is selling this as sustainable aviation fuel. And now I think you can see that it's applicable to something much, much larger than that. That's what their focus is on. But a group that's coming in and showing that you can expand their focus, I think they would see a lot of value in what
So you
you're
can go to
bringing the table.
VentureCat with this, with just a few tweaks on your deck. VentureCat is looking for stuff like this, as is Rice University, and I believe also the folks in Chicago, not Clean Energy Trust, what's the Evergreen Innovation. Evergreen Innovation. They got a competition too. So
I think that the work done and what you uncovered was phenomenal. In other words, you did phenomenal work. The only thing I think you did yourself some injustice by you could have mailed me the slides and I would have gotten the same story. In other words, you even had a slide where at the bottom you had note and I couldn't read it fast enough. Okay, so you need to strip down your slides and you can have it as an addendum. You can show it condensed on a few that you've got all this massive amount of analysis done. Okay, but we didn't get a story from you. We got it from a report. And I think that if you're in a competition, the story needs to come from you, not taking 10 pages of a report and turning them into slides.
that said, I will also say that, I mean, a lot of what I've seen tonight so far, maybe 60+% from all the teams could have come from an MBA program. But what we saw from the last handful of slides from this team in particular, I don't think there's an MBA program in the world that would have been able to figure out what you guys figured out.
Correct.
So I applaud you as engineers, and I hope you guys understand now the critical, I guess, aspect and attributes that we bring to this equation, right? As engineers, we know how to translate the physics, if you will, into the business, which is exactly what you did. That's what the unit economics. I've never seen the unit economics that detailed before.
And I will say, one of the things that I really loved was there's nothing more challenging than trying to come up with unit economics for something that's a TRL4, where nobody knows a damn thing about it. And you understood the core mission, which is make something up. It's as valid as your assumptions. State the assumptions that you have. You did a phenomenal job of that. They were detailed, they were intricate, they were clearly very well researched. And
they were reasonable.
And they were reasonable. They were all reasonable.
Yeah.
And you put it all together, and then the answer wasn't as nice as you wanted it to be, but that didn't cause you to go back and fudge any numbers. It caused you to pivot your business model, which is exactly the right thing to do.
Yeah, I love
really
the
good
unit
job.
economics. Really, I mean, you did detail as everybody has said, and I've done a lot of math in my life, and I was trying to validate that in my mind, and I couldn't. I mean,
Well, if we gave you a couple of days, you could have done it.
eventually. But other
You'd have to do a little bit of research, but you could validate.
I thought they did a great job of coming up with the numbers and showing and concluding that how those numbers will have profitability.
I will say though, for the last two teams though, It is extra challenging when there's a very specific physical technology that you know absolutely nothing about. I live that every day, and being able to understand, like you said, understand what it can do, what it can't do, and be able to work with that, even though you don't know fully know what's going on behind the curtain. Incredibly valuable skill. Pure engineers can't do that. Business people certainly can't do that. You guys are very uniquely suited to fit
Engineering
that
managers.
niche.
There you go.
Engineering managers is what we need you for.
All right, so no more commercials for MEM. Why don't we go straight to Auto CX, or customer experience? At the request of that team, we're gonna do a little bit out of sequence here. I guess there's some time constraints on that team, so Auto CX, you are next, and you have
So
10
Mark,
minutes.
The last two presentations, there is really some nugget that they can take and run with it.
Oh, yeah.
Is somebody following up on that and encouraging them or working
I
with
just
them?
did. I encouraged the first team to go to a poster session. I encouraged this team to go out and compete in the world.
So are you gonna?
Should I get a pickup
have
truck and push them in? I mean,
Yeah, have a report next month.
I can't.
We
can
want to
only
report
point-
back from them next month?
They're not gonna be my
In 2
students
months?
next month. I
I
mean, they're
know.
not gonna be in this class. All I can say is the opportunity is out there for all of you to compete. The opportunities for all of you to go to these poster sessions that I'm gonna be holding in February. It's not just the two teams that we've highlighted, but I think you've got enough work there that you probably want to build on it and take it as far as you can.
I would really.
Okay, Auto customer experience, take it away, 10 minutes.
Thanks, Professor. We are the Automotive SOA Customer Experience team. This is our team. This would be our last academic presentation for the foreseeable future. So thank you all for your support and guidance throughout the MEM program. So without further ado, let's start.
That's the future right here. An all-female team. There you go.
The automotive service industry is rapidly evolving with the integration of AI, which presents unique opportunities to transform the ownership and aftermarket service experience by making vehicles smarter and services more efficient, all leading to a higher customer satisfaction. So,
Uh-oh. Oh, no. I think we lost the audio.
hello.
Yeah, we hear you now.
Yeah. As I was saying, we are going to dive into what exactly we are providing, and it's on the next slide. Okay. Imagine a future where your car not only tells you what is wrong with it, but also fixes itself or guides you through the solution seamlessly. Our automotive service solution enhances customer experience by delivering AI-powered precision in diagnostics. With new technologies like natural language processing, every interaction with your vehicle will feel human-like. Our intelligent data-driven automotive service solution goes beyond traditional diagnostics. So picture interactive and actionable assistance that not only resolves issues and reduces service turnaround time, but empowers the customer to have like a hassle-free service experience. So this is our elevator pitch, and this is our solution in a whole. So when we evaluate the technology, vehicles are equipped with OBD sensors that continually monitor parts, fluids, system telemetry, and all of these constantly in real time. Issues that are detected will trigger alerts through a user interface that provides users with understandable insights into resolving the problem. So AI is running through all of this and collecting all these data, and things that the car can fix itself will be fixed by the car themselves, and by running some sort of self-tests. Of course, this would mean that our biggest challenge is data, privacy, security, and regulatory compliance. And the fact that the technology is so new that we need constant upskilling and training. Next slide, please. So our preferred application would imply that our solution will employ a cloud-based service architecture that connects vehicles, users, and service centers in an intelligent data loop. And our AI will offer self-service functionality and customization to the issue of the make and model of the car. And service centers can employ remote diagnostics and planning enabled by the data that the vehicles share, and which will provide like a reduced learning curve or actionable guidance, interactive guidance. But for this, of course, we need data that is trained and validated by OEMs. Therefore, if OEMs would allow the users to opt in, the additional telemetry, vehicle telemetry data that is streamed to the cloud and analyzed by the machine learning algorithms would enable predictive health assessments that prompt, proactive service recommendations that we can push back to the OEMs. With that, we are handing over to you, Sitara.
Yeah. Thank you, Nandana. So talking about the working hypothesis, we envision an AI-powered SOA that's tailored specifically for dealers and vehicle owners. So think of it like this. It's a powerful digital thread that connects vehicles, users, technicians, and business systems in like a seamless network of intelligence. So for vehicles, we envision onboard sensors and computers that continuously provide diagnostics, self-servicing capabilities, preventative alerts, and software updates that would sort of pave the way for a smarter and more efficient automotive experience. For drivers, a mobile app would have a wealth of information offering insights into the vehicle status, maintenance planning and repair guidance, etc. For the service technicians, they would be guided by predictive insights and AI assistance so that technicians can perform faster, higher quality servicing, basically ensuring a superior level of care for each vehicle. So our solution employs an AI-powered architecture that creates a very intelligent data loop connecting the vehicle's users and service centers. So vehicles become equipped with sensors and onboard diagnostics that enabling continuous monitoring and immediate issue detection. The users would gain insights through this mobile app, allowing for an interactive guidance. And AI assistant steps in offering tailored maintenance instructions and troubleshooting advice. For users who opt in, additional telemetry data streams to the cloud analyzed by machine learning algorithms to enable predictive health assessments. What this does is it prompts proactive servicing recommendations, ensures a well-maintained and reliable vehicle. Service centers are also thought to become increasingly more efficient through remote diagnostics and planning that's guided by the data that's shared from these vehicles. So our AI would guide the technicians during repairs, providing interactive instructions and even things like streamlined parts ordering and expert troubleshooting. So in essence, our working hypothesis would lay the groundwork for a connected, intelligent, and user-centric automotive ecosystem. Moving on, talking about the performance curve, as you can see, we have the performance level on the y-axis, and we have outlined how it's expected to vary based on the different phases. The first one is baseline customer experience. So it starts here at the bottom where we began by acknowledging the challenges in the current automotive industry. So the baseline experience reflects the difficulties that users and buyers may currently face in the aftermarket and repair services. Next is the implementation of our solution. As we introduce our proposed AI solution, we aim to directly address these challenges and bring new features to the forefront. We anticipate a significant rise in the performance level, showing the enhanced capabilities of our solution. The next would be anticipated user feedback and adoption. We envision a positive user feedback and widespread adoption of our solution. This phase kind of marks a pivotal turning point, indicating the success of our solution and expectation of a higher level of customer satisfaction. The next would be KPIs. So we project that KPI metrics will demonstrate substantial improvements, indicating the optimization of aftermarket and repair services. This showcases tangible benefits for our users and partners, aligning with our vision for a successful implementation. The second last one would be industry impact. The solution is expected to influence the broader automotive industry positively. There may be challenges in scalability. We anticipate performance level will remain commendable, signifying a positive impact on varying industry segments. The last one would be challenges and anticipated iterative improvements. So we do anticipate challenges. Our commitment to iterative improvements still would remain strong. This adaptability is kind of crucial to ensuring that the solution evolves to meet the changing industry needs. Moving on, I'll pass on to Akshara.
So the target market and size. We were viewing this through two different lenses, that is dealerships, service centers, and vehicle owners. For dealerships, the TAM was determined to be $25 billion, and this is by virtue of the total estimation of US dealerships as 75,000 and an annual price per dealership of $10,000. The SAM was determined to be $7.5 billion and a SOM of $1.3 billion. For vehicle owners, the TAM was determined to be $119 billion, and this was by virtue of the total estimation of registered passenger vehicles in the US of 276 million, and a basic diagnostic system priced at $100 per vehicle. So a SAM of $35.7 billion and a SOM of $5.35 billion. Next slide, please. According to the market analysis that we performed, there were about 16,753 new car dealerships in the US as of 2022. The total number of new and used car dealerships combined is estimated to be around 75,000 nationwide as of 2022. Revenues for auto dealerships increased to a record of $1.35 trillion in 2021. This was driven by low inventories and high demand. There were over 282 million motor vehicles in the US by 2021. The top 50 US metro areas account for 1/4 of the registered vehicles, and individual vehicle ownership is around 83% nationwide. This refers to the percentage of households that own at least one vehicle. Next slide, please. Our AI solution lies on high scalability and innovative focus on the competitive map, which depicts a differentiated offering. None of our competitors use AI analytics, which makes our solution stand out as the most innovative. Our cloud-based AI data architecture also makes us scalable and capable of self-learning. Next slide, please. Our interviews with diverse customer segments included vehicle owners, service providers, and industry experts, consistently highlighted a growing need for enhanced automotive diagnostics and customer-centric solutions. We gained insights into the technical and economic feasibility of implementing AI-enabled service-oriented architecture. A pricing test was also conducted among potential buyers, which showed a substantial 65% willingness to pay, indicating strong market interest and readiness to invest in AI-enabled automotive solutions. Notable dealerships exhibited significant interest, recognizing potential of these solutions to increase productivity. Next slide, please. Our value proposition. Our AI-enabled solution offers self-service functionality customized to the issue on each make and model of the vehicle. Unlike traditional diagnostics that do not employ AI, our solution elevates the customer experience where service centers gain efficiency through remote diagnostics and planning. Technicians get simplified maintenance with interactive personalized instructions, parts ordering, and expert troubleshooting. Our AI provides the OEM with predictive health assessments of their vehicle systems. Kusumana will be now taking over. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Akshara. So this is our business model canvas, and we have walked through this a couple of times. The only changes that we had from the previous time was the revenue stream would also come from the data revenue from selling service and analytics to OEMs, and the rest was pretty much the same. Next slide, please. Okay, so talking about the revenue model, so for our technology, the major and the primary revenue model would be a subscription-based model for support and updates. And we are also thinking about licensing fees for our AI technology and revenue sharing with partners. Next slide. Coming to the value chain analysis, so these are the primary activities among the value chain which are adding value to this technology, which include inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing, and sales and service. And these are the support activities. Next slide. So coming to the unit economics, so we considered an initial target market size of 10,000 vehicle owners and 100 dealers, and a subscription cost of $10 per month for vehicle owners and $1,000 per month for dealers. And the way we went ahead for calculating the unit economics was by considering the capex, marginal operating cost, maintenance capex, and customer acquisition cost. As you can see here, we have divided this into vehicle owners and dealerships. For vehicle owners, we have calculated the capex, which included development and maintenance of AI technology, platform infrastructure. And for marginal operating cost, it included hosting and cloud service fees, AI modeling and training and maintenance, customer support cost, and other variable cost. For maintenance CapEx, it included regular updates and improvements to AI models, software and hardware maintenance. And for customer acquisition cost, it was marketing and advertising expenses and sales team salaries and commissions. Also considering a churn rate of 10% for vehicle owners, the customer lifetime was 10 months and CLTV was $100. Next slide. So this is for the dealers, and so we did the same calculation as we did for the vehicle owners, and considered a churn rate of 5% for dealers, and the CLTV was 1,666. Now coming to the profit and margin, the revenue for the vehicle owners and dealers and the total cost, considering all of this, the profit was 264K and profit margin is 20%. So this is the techno-economic analysis we did. We have divided this into CAPEX, OPEX, and calculated the net CAPEX and OPEX, and calculated the payback of our technology to be 0.71, which is really good, which states that our initial investment will be covered within a year. Next slide. So based on the interview and analysis that we did, we can say that there is a market need that justifies developing a clearly differentiated AI-enabled CX platform for the automotive industry. And these are the next steps. We want to go ahead with in 3 phases. Phase 1 would be pursuing data partnerships and to accumulate high quality AI training data sets, and also establish robust data governance and security practices to ensure privacy protection and improve customer trust. Phase 2 would be integrate more vehicle data for machine learning and predictive analytics, develop MVP onboard diagnostics and AI alerting system, and also explore the feasibility of pilot programs with OEMs. And the phase 3 would be connecting service center dashboards and deploying enhancements to personalization and connectivities, and also evaluating solution against the KPIs. Thank you.
All right, nice job. With your system, I'm assuming that a dealer could literally wait until the vehicle tells him that a part is needed before they purchase it and bring it into stock. Is that one of the advantages of your system?
Yeah, I think that is an advantage. Like, dealer doesn't have to actually have a lot of inventory. From the vehicle, the data that is collected would actually tell what is the, based on the performance, when the part has to be changed or when the dealer actually need what kind of inventory. I think that is also an advantage from this technology.
There's also less labor required to book the appointments because all of that can be automated now, right?
Correct.
The car will inform the dealership that it needs to be maintained. The car can access the calendar of the owner as well as the calendar of the shop and get everything scheduled and ready to go, right?
Yep.
So I think there's a lot of savings there that just weren't delineated or made clear. And I guess I'm trying to understand the value proposition. I understand the revenue, but I guess I'm trying to understand where the savings come from to justify the revenue. And I think having the story and having the details behind it would have enhanced the presentation in my book. But I'll leave it to these guys for some backup here.
The thing that I'm struggling with the most is, and I certainly mean no offense by this, but I fail to see what you all are bringing to the table that an OEM couldn't do themselves. I mean, you need to get the data from the OEM, right? So they already have the data. What's stopping them from creating an identical system and then just
putting you out of business?
Yeah, just copying your, or what's stopping them from pulling an Apple and working with you long enough to understand what the market wants and then turning off your data access and turning on their competing system?
So traditional OEMs and currently whatever diagnostic solutions that exist in the market are using machine learning algorithms, but not necessarily depending on AI, which is why our solution would provide a sort of self-fixing. But the point that you raised is indeed one of the concerns that we also came across, because they could just use our system, because we would start out as a differentiated offering, but then once we're out in the market, we could get a lot of competition even from OEM. But that is where we are pursuing a better, I guess, avenue for partnerships with OEMs.
So I'll give you a perfect example that just happened about a month ago. There were a number of startup businesses that popped up around ChatGPT, and in particular, plugins that allowed for you to import PDF documents into ChatGPT. People started entire businesses and went out to go raise money off the prospect of their business. And then months into the development of this tool, ChatGPT adds their own plugin that lets you import PDFs, and instantly overnight killed every single business that cropped up in that niche. And I see that happening here no matter what.
Well, flip the model and say, okay, your customer is the OEM.
Exactly.
You get an exclusive agreement with them that says you're going to develop this on their behalf. Pick an OEM, Volkswagen, Toyota, whoever, and develop their solution for them as kind of an outsourced service, in which case you're not really in the product business, you're kind of in the, I don't know, consulting business, right?
Yeah.
Plus, we didn't mention this in our PPT, but we would look into pursuing a patent for our key technology and algorithm. So we would make it hard for them to copy us.
Yes,
Oh,
and,
they
and
can-
something I, sorry,
They can
Professor,
license
something
that. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Professor. So something I mentioned in the performance curve as well, like we certainly, like with our industry impact, we certainly expect to influence the broader like automotive industry more positively. But at the same time, we realize the importance of like iterative improvements. So there might be certain challenges, but it's important to keep adapting and, evolving the solution to meet the changing industry needs.
One thing I will mention, anyone who's dealing with AI on your implementation slide, I liked that slide a lot. I think it helped very much with you telling your story. But item number 2, right after the existing customer experience, was implementing an AI-based system. And the only issue comes in, and everybody should recognize this, we've mentioned this many times in this class, AI is constantly a victim of a chicken and egg scenario. You need massive data sets in order to train, but you can't get massive data sets until you start collecting the data. So you can say step 2 is implement in the market, begin collecting data, but I would be very hesitant to say that step 2 is implementing AI, because there's nothing for the AI to do at that step yet, if that makes sense.
It's just, I believe the team zeroed in on service industry, or a sector of the service industry, that's automotive service, that has, it's ripe for the improvement of using AI to improve that service experience. I think you did a good job on zeroing in on that industry and what could be done with a good AI system. I did not get the feeling that you got a good handle on who would be willing to pay for that better experience. Is it the OEM? Is it the dealer? Is it the owner of the car? You cannot have all 3 of them pay for it, because somebody is going to want to control it. Okay, but you clearly identified that all 3 are required in order to have a substantial improvement in the service level in the aftermarket of automotive services.
And I guess I'm even more convinced now that, these preventive maintenance team and the customer experience team probably should have been merged.
That's what I was going to bring up, that there's a lot of cross pollination between the two.
There's subtle differences, but I mean, they're going after the same thing.
Same thing, but in a different way. One is looking at the customer experience side, how to improve customer experience.
Right.
The other one is on just fixing and scheduling, logistic, and especially they're focusing on fleet.
Right.
at this point, but that could be generalized to a bigger than fleet.
So
But a
for
couple of things that
Yeah.
the team was really very important and zoning on is one is the ecosystem.
Yeah.
That they're trying to bring all these three pieces of separate, which they're not working together that well right now, bring them together with this system. And the second was a self-diagnostic, which I don't think like GM or those people are really focusing on that.
Right.
You know, the
Which is why they
self-diagnostic
should be, which is why they could be selling their services to them.
them.
Right.
Exactly.
And if once you do that, it solves your problem about who are you actually doing business with. You're doing business with the OEM because you're benefiting the entire ecosystem.
The entire, and also
Right.
the dealership.
Well,
The
that's part of the
self-diagnostic
ecosystem, the dealership, the customer.
Exactly. That's why they bring that ecosystem.
But
Right.
both have the same chicken and egg, but both have the same data set objective to get.
Right.
Both need the same data stream.
The two teams you're
The
talking
two
about.
teams.
Right.
So the two teams
Absolutely.
could collect one massive amount of data and have two separate benefit revenue streams.
So if either team wants to go out and
Absolutely.
compete and go outside of this class and go to Rice or go wherever, VentureCat, I would suggest that those two teams combine somehow.
Yeah.
And not try to go out separately, because I think you're stronger together than you are apart. I will bring up one thing. Back in the day, there was something called fault-tolerant computing systems, right? And those fault-tolerant computing systems were hot switchover redundant, okay? So in other words, you didn't have one CPU, you had two. You had two hard disks, two of everything. And depending on how they were performing, one would hot switch over to the other, okay? They didn't stop there. When there was a defective component, it would actually order that replacement part, and that replacement part would be shipped to the technician for installation, right? So not only did you have hot switchover, you had some of the same elements that you're talking about here, which is kind of the self-ordering, self-healing, self-repair, that basically existed 25 years ago in the computer industry, okay? So if you're gonna learn from anyone, learn from those folks, right? The fault-tolerant computing hardware industry, right?
And one thing that the team has to be very careful about is on what the limitation of self-diagnostic and self-repair.
Yeah.
Certainly, talking to GM and others, they don't want us to work on the safety part.
Right.
The safety part is out of the question. So it's important for you to really itemize what is it outside of scope and what's in the scope from self-diagnostic.
And let's face it too, I mean, we're also stepping on a revenue stream and a profit stream that used to be the domain of the dealers. So dealers would benefit from unreliable hardware. So you're talking about improving reliability and then and availability. And guess what? You're probably taking some dollars out of the dealer's pocket. I would go one step further to say, what happens 5-10 years from now when the dealerships as we know it are gone? Right? They're going to vaporize. They're starting to vaporize now. It's like those Jenga games where you're pulling out the sticks and you wonder, when is it going to collapse? Any day now, right? Any day now, we're going to start seeing the closure of hundreds, maybe thousands of dealerships across the country, across the brands, across the makes. So is the dealership really the end all be all here? Or is this an ecosystem that's going to need some kind of supplement or replacement for the dealer?
I think it eventually replaces the dealer. If you're talking about the self-diagnostic and self-repair.
Somebody's still got to get in there and roll up their sleeves and swap out the part, right? You're not going to get a robot.
If it gets to a point that it's a part issue, it could be software issue, it could be software update, over the air update can fix it.
Right.
Could be customization. So, but if parts replacement, yes, then you still need.
All right. Otherwise, great job, guys. Thank you. GPU team is next, and then refit, and then Delos, and then supply chain will be the last tonight. We're going to go past 9:30, possibly as late as 9:45. I'm just warning you now. We started late. We're going to end late. That's just the way it is, right? GPU team.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone can hear me.
We've got it. We hear you. No problem.
All right. So this is team GPU, and let's just get to it. Yeah. So the problem that this team is trying to identify is essentially been boiled down to GPU and its shortages. We understand that as much as these hardware companies want to manufacture more and more GPUs, they're just not meeting demand. And there is a lot of consensus in the market to go for alternate solutions which are not cloud compute, which are not AWS's. So the only way to solve that problem would be to share the resources that you currently have. Okay, so that's where this team really wants to bring value into. And question to answer would be, how are you going to stack up against the solutions that you have right now? So the value proposition, if for alternative solutions like ours, who are already in the market, who already are sharing GPUs in one way or the other, it is that they do not understand how to break the barrier of supply, right? The, let's say, large initial capital expenditure that you have before you start renting out your GPUs. And to reduce that, you need to bring more debt into the picture. That's where our value prop is to bring collateralized debt into play. And the value prop against cloud compute will always be infrastructural advantage that this solution will provide, which we will obviously get into, which is going to eliminate any requirement of real estate whatsoever, and also all the maintenance and the OpEx that comes with it. The other focus is to have a more pre-built mini data center, so that both these value props, as you can see, is very supply oriented. So just to bring more players into the marketplace and get more traction into this solution that we are providing. And obviously, it's self-sustainable as opposed to any cloud compute infrastructure as we see today. So to understand the market, obviously, this market is one of the most talked about market, perhaps ever, largely driving from machine learning and AI usage across the globe. So you will see a lot of white spaces moving forward. It might be us, it might be someone else who's going to crack the white space, but definitely a lot of room for innovation. And yeah, around more than 65 billion market for the GPU requirement alone, and a lot of breakages across different functionalities. Looking at the interview insights, it was pretty clear that we came with hypothesis that there will be a lot of requirement, but it was very eye-opening to see it in real one-to-one sense. A lot of pain points for the cloud infrastructure, our direct competition themselves, because of the high capital, as well as in the executive positions of the client point of view. They always are looking at reducing cost when it comes to their GPU allocations. So any alternate solution that is going to provide lesser cost and more reliability will be the winner, and will probably take up more market share. Looking at the second research was essentially trying to understand what other pain points and also to revalidate what we are currently looking at in our primary interviews. It was pretty clear that there's a lot of reliability issues with the direct alternate solution, which are all the platforms that are actually sharing the GPU marketplace at this stage. There is definitely reliability becomes a roadblock, as well as the data transferability, because they are not located in the proximity of the client. So yeah, just to highlight all of the lessons that we learned, the analysis really shows that the marketplace is strictly divided into a box of highly cost efficient solutions versus a box of highly cost sensitive but highly reliable solutions. So we want to be somewhere in between, especially because we have strategies that are against making this a more costlier approach, as well as making it more reliable. So yeah, the direct competition, like we were talking about when I talk about alternate solutions, really vast AI that is really coming up with a bigger marketplace than expected, but with a lot of cons, especially resource availability issues, which is a good thing because they have a first mover advantage, and we really saw how dissatisfied the customers who are using the solution, but there's clearly also a space where these kind of solutions can actually bring about some momentum. Yeah, so this is all about the backdrop of why we have chosen this particular space. Now Prakhar will come and talk about more on the financial point of view.
Thank you, Viren. So as Viren mentioned about the various problems in the cloud computing space and the GPU sharing space, and we validated this hypothesis, the problem statement, by conducting various interviews and by doing the secondary research. And we also see the market potential by doing the market sizing. So then we went to the demand side economics and tried to understand what are the various pricing at which the various GPU models are available. And we can clearly see that there are different GPU models which are priced at different prices. So it clearly means that the GPU models which are like on the high end of the technology, which are which are in the state of the art in the technology, they are getting premium. So for example, HGX H100, this is one of the latest NVIDIA GPU, which is being charged at the $4.76. That is one pricing, and like I have seen, people are paying more than that for this kind of GPU. So there is a lot of demand on the state-of-the-art GPU models. So will in next slide. And so here I try to visualize it better, and in the upper right corner we see the high value models, and there are some low value models. So as of now we are trying to focus on the high value models, which are like H100, HGX H100. That is an entirely different GPU model with that is coming along with a different platform as a service. Next slide. And so if we look on the business side of this, and if we try to see, okay, what are the different cost drivers that will be there when we are going to operate this business. So there are some fixed cost drivers. So for example, GPUs, RAM, monitor, data center related equipments like coolers, PCIe expressors, etc., etc. And then there are some cost drivers which are variable. So for example, maintenance charges, electricity charges. And if we see, and over a period of time, the fixed cost will remain same, but variable cost will keep on changing and the revenue will keep on increasing. Next slide. So there is a break-even point at the 12 to 13 months for a given data center rig of 38,000 approximate cost. And so that means like if anyone planning to buy a GPU rig, then that person will be able to get the money back within like 13 months. And after that, whatever that machine will run, it will be a profit. So that's how we feel that this business is economically profitable, and anyone who will buy the GPUs and put it on our platform, that will be a profitable business, and it's profitable for the company, for us also. Next slide. So this is the business model canvas layout. So we have the key partners will be all the GPU manufacturers, cloud service providers can be, and if we look at the cost structure, so the cost of the hardware or the subscription plan can be one cost structure, and the cost reduction planning that is related to the collateral, that can also another cost structure, and revenue streams, commission based, and selling pre-built mini data center kits and selling hardware resources. And so if we try to summarize it, so our value proposition will be faster computation resources at a cheaper rate that will provide high availability, scalable, reliable GPU resources and that will not require any maintenance. And when you are going to scale your computation resources for your AI projects, for your data science projects, for your simulation related projects, and that's all. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. So I guess I'm going to pick some nits here. I mean, you did a cost analysis of almost every GPU model out there, but you did one break-even analysis. I'm assuming that's on one of the high-value GPUs.
Yeah, yes, Professor.
But I think in your high value, you're just looking at revenue, correct? You're not looking at ROI, return on investment?
Return on investment. Yeah, but the thing is like it will be more than that.
I guess my point is, if I bought 10 cheap GPUs, could they generate more revenue at the same cost as one expensive GPU? In other words, do you need a way to normalize the revenue as an ROI or return on investment on a model by model basis so that we know which one you're going after? It occurs to me that this service could easily be handled by NVIDIA. They make GPUs for a living. When they're sitting on excess GPU capacity or inventory, they could literally just roll it into this service model, and they could compete with you directly because they build the damn thing. So how do you protect from that kind of competitor?
That is correct, but what I think is that they are trying to focus more on the building the latest GPUs, and they will not try to go on the side of like providing the services.
Yeah, I know. And Amazon was focused on selling books until they weren't.
Right, but the thing is, if they are trying to do the same thing, then in one way they are trying to reduce their sale of their own GPUs, because people will not buy their GPUs and people will only use their services. And that's
kind of win either way. They win no matter what, right? It's a win-win scenario for them. Why would they allow any competitor to compete with their GPU business, right?
Professor, we could also, in the same way, we could also question why they are not in the large data center business too, because that could be more profitable for them than doing a peer-to-peer GPU connection, right? I think the fact they don't do it is because of their strategic positions that they want to take, which is to not go down the value chain. And if they were coming down to direct to consumer businesses, they'd probably look to acquire rather than run the entire system themselves, because it will take tons of effort into going for distribution, marketing, and more importantly, educating the customers about buying these kind of solutions. I believe they'll have a harder time, and I believe they will focus more on acquisition rather than starting reinventing the wheel.
All right, those are my questions.
So I just had a couple comments. One, you mentioned early on collateralized debt. It makes some sense, but you don't speak to it at all beyond mentioning it in the beginning of the presentation. When you get to the break-even cost calculation, one of the very, very, very important features that needs to be included in that is the interest that you're paying on the debt that you used to acquire the system. So that's going to extend your break-even time probably by 2 to 3 months, if I had to guess. So that leads me to, obviously, computational resources have been following Moore's law for a very long time, right? So the speed is constantly increasing. People who are paying good money to rent time, they're going to want to be using the latest and greatest technology. So
they have to replace it.
Exactly. So you're going to need to be continuously replacing these units and upgrading these units. So what is the expected lifetime of one of these $40,000 data centers? How much longer than your break-even point are you going to be able to generate revenue with this device?
No, you're not going to wait for the GPUs to fail. You're going to replace them when they become obsolete, which could be well within your break-even time.
Yeah, that's correct, Professor. So the thing is, if we buy any of the GPUs, so the lifetime is around 3 to 4 years. So think of it in the same way. We buy any car and we use that car for 3 to 4 years, and then we sold that car or we discard that car. So this is the same problem we are trying to solve here with the help of GPUs. And regarding the first question that Professor Mark asked regarding why NVIDIA is not going into the business. So I will bring the analogy here. So we have Hyundai, we have Honda, we have Toyota. We can also think, why are these companies not in the rental business, and why is Enterprise, Zipcar, Avis, Budget are in the rental business, right? So it is the same kind of a business model that we are trying to replicate in the computation hardware resources. So that are my 2 cents.
I see your whole project and model here is a business play model, okay, and not that you don't have a technological competitive advantage on anybody. I strictly see you exploring a niche business model within the present market of GPUs. Is that a correct analysis?
So that is what I think is that this the technology that we are going to build is the platform where the different people will come and share the resources, and that is itself a competitive advantage in terms of the technology. The platform and the switching cost that the users will have in that platform, and once they will be in the ecosystem, they will not leave our ecosystem. So that will be the competitive advantage.
But because anybody with a boatload of cash can compete with you.
No, there's no IP here.
There's no
I don't think so.
technological advantage.
I would like to disagree on this, because the thing is, once people are in the ecosystem, once people like sign up to any particular service, and they are very much fluent with the workflows and all those things, so that is trying to create a kind of stickiness in the ecosystem.
Well, here,
And
let me put it to you a different way. Let me ask you. You mentioned Vast AI a couple times. What are the things that are what's Vast AI failing at right now? Right, it's speed and reliability, right?
Yeah.
So
they are not reliable. The computation resources that they are providing, they are not available. So if I need it, I don't get it very easily, and many times people are facing challenges. There are a lot of friction in their ecosystem and in their platform.
But what I'm saying is it might not be a very successful ecosystem, but they already have an ecosystem. And the only thing stopping them from correcting their failings is implementing this exact same model. So what's to stop Vast AI seeing you put out these $40,000 mini data centers, and then they decide to do the exact same thing because they already have an entrenched ecosystem? Do you see what I'm saying? So in that case, you're really not bringing anything unique to the market, because they have an ecosystem. They can buy this off-the-shelf hardware and put it wherever they want. Right?
Somehow the Vast AI customers are not loyal to their ecosystem, but your customers will be. So I'm not exactly sure why that is. They're chasing capacity and reliability because they've probably got too much demand, not enough supply. We're back to the whole shortage of GPUs thing, which you don't have a secret recipe for, and apparently nobody else does, except the people who make the damn thing. So I'm right back to the manufacturer could much more easily do this than anyone they supply. Hyundai and Kia are now selling their cars on the internet through Amazon. They're also leasing their cars, and I'm pretty sure they're going to go into the car share business as well. So you're going to see the car industry change quite a bit. And I don't ever assume that just because a company hasn't done something that they never will. That was one of the key golden nuggets, I think, from earlier tonight. If they can pivot there, if they've got an advantage over you, you're going to have to figure out your advantage over them. So let's just call it a day on this presentation. Thank you. Nice job. Well done. Let's go to Refit, and then after that, Delos. So Refit, take it away.
Hello, everyone from Team Refit. I'm Priyanka, and I'm here with my teammates, Pushpak, Akhil, and Vardhaman. Annually, the widespread challenge of downtime exerts a staggering toll on industries, resulting in an average loss of 400,000 production hours, amounting to 20 million USD in lost productivity. The reliance on manual retrospective data collection methods further compounds this issue, obstructing crucial operational insights and causing an estimated 20% decline in overall productivity, translating to an additional loss of 40 million USD. To address this pressing problem and empower companies to remain competitive in the data-driven landscape, Refit offers a game-changing solution. Our state-of-art IoT analytics platform, powered by open source components, provide real-time operational insights, allowing businesses to proactively minimize downtime, regain lost productivity, potentially saving costs. It's not about mitigating losses. It's also about securing a competitive advantage in the industry that demands precision and efficiency. That is where Refit comes to play. Next slide. Okay. Refit is tailored for mid-sized manufacturing companies, including custom metal fabrication shops, plastic injection molding companies, woodworking and furniture manufacturing, as well as textile and apparel manufacturing. The primary objective of implementing Refit in these industries are to achieve predictive maintenance, real-time monitoring, quality control, and efficiency improvement. Refit aims to revolutionize maintenance strategies by leveraging advanced analytics to predict and prevent potential equipment failures. This protective approach minimizes downtime, reduces maintenance costs, and extends the lifespan of machinery. The platform provides a real-time monitoring system that offers a comprehensive view of the manufacturing process. This enables decision-making based on live data, optimizing operational efficiency and responsiveness of changing conditions. Refit also focuses on overall operational efficiency by analyzing data, identifying bottlenecks and inefficiency. Platform facilitates targeting improvement in processes, resource utilization, and workflow, leading to productivity and cost effectiveness. The implementation period is projected to span between 6 to 18 months, allowing for us to phase the tailored integration of Refit into the existing manufacturing processes. This timeframe ensures a thorough and adaptive period and opportunity to fine-tune the system based on the requirements of different industries. The estimated budgets ranges between $20,000 to $702,000. This budget encompasses costs associated with software integrations, hardware requirements, training programs, and ongoing support. Next slide. Let's break into the key capabilities. Refit stands out as a data processing and analytics solutions, uniquely equipped to handle high velocity data with low latency, thanks to the cutting edge machine learning capabilities. It is built on Kubernetes. It ensures seamless scalability as data volumes grow, while its user-friendly design simplifies the integration of diverse data sources and IoT devices. What sets Refit apart is the optimization of data pre-processing, reducing costs up to 20%, and its remarkable ability to generate accurate predictions with 20 to 30% less training data compared to typical machine learning models. Refit also offers real-time dashboards, alerts, and visualizations, providing users with immediate access to insights and decision-making. Next slide. The limitations that we have identified would be the data quality and completeness. And the second limitation that could actually challenge our product would be the resource requirement that it would require for a smaller organization that is still developing. But that is where Refit comes into picture by solving these problems. Next. Besides the obvious solution that Refit provides, it also is useful for sustainability tracking, construction workflows, and retail store operations, which is described as follows. I would like to hand over it to Pushpa for the market.
Thank you, Priyanka. Now coming to the market analysis, we assessed various industries to target which segment should we go for, but manufacturing really stood out to us. We looked into smart cities, healthcare, and also automotive, but they had their own issues, like some were emerging industries, some had strict regulations, whereas there were automotive has large companies and they can develop their own IoT solutions. So specifically, we were targeting mid-sized discrete manufacturers who have made investments in connected machines, but they do struggle to leverage the data to drive any kind of insights for improvement. So now looking at the hypothesis, we narrowed it down a little by focusing on what do these manufacturing companies really need and what kind of pricing are they looking for, which we'll be discussing in the later slides. So next slide, please. Now, the pressing question is, why is there a need for Refit? So I want to dig deeper into the factors driving the need for a solution like Refit in manufacturing. First, looking at downtime. Large facilities lose over 27 hours of production per month on average. So this leads to a lot of substantial costs, be it lost revenue, idle workers, or any kind of repair costs. Additionally, only 20% of manufacturers have actually implemented and collect real-time data. So most companies still do rely on manual retrospective data methods. It's difficult to address all the issues proactively if you rely on such kind of manual technology. And moreover, analysts have estimated that manufacturers could realize over 400 billion in productivity gains over a decade by leveraging on IoT data analytics. So that's where Refit plays a very major role. Moving on to our interview insights. So we had interviewed a couple of people from project managers, manufacturing engineers, and even industry experts. So the main highlights and key takeaways are that there are inefficient workflows and which do rely on manual equipment maintenance that I had mentioned before, and that do add to the challenge of involved system integrations. This are facing difficult to scale their analytics capabilities, and all the other challenges still do exist. But what is interesting is that they are looking for a solution like Refit, and they are willing to pay for it, keeping in mind that it's more of a usage-based pricing and not just like tier-based pricing. So for the data they ingest, they're going to pay for that. And they really want to address the issue of downtime costs, because as we have seen, there are a lot of machine failures happening, which could lead up to a lot of loss in revenue. Now, moving on to the next slide. So we have estimated the TAM, SAM and SOM for keeping US in mind. So that comes around to 50.5 billion as the TAM and 15.15 billion for the SAM and 2.27 billion. Moving on. So there is a good rate of market growth, as you can see, like in a period of 10 years, there is a compound annual growth rate of 24.7%. So that's a good thing, and Refit can capitalize on it. Now, I would like to hand it over to Akhil for the next section.
We're gonna have to keep it short, guys. You just ran out of time, so try to keep it as succinct as possible.
I'll keep it short. So competitors, like all the big names, there is Amazon, there is Microsoft, there is Google. But from a detailed competitor analysis, what we understood is all of these players come with certain limitations, which Refit addresses. As you can see, it integrates well, it's easy to deploy, uses less resources, and it's cost effective as well. So what is our value proposition? That is exactly what our value proposition is, what I was talking about in the previous slide. It's super easy to integrate with other vendors. Most other solutions like Amazon Kinesis or Azure, for example, just locks you in. It's very easy to deploy, use, and train. It typically requires much less data in volume terms compared to other platforms to train and go forward. And this is like our business model canvas as of now. Not a lot of changes that we've made, but our customer segments have been narrowed down. Our cost structures have been narrowed down, and our revenue streams as well. So how does Refit make money? It primarily does so by selling to mid-sized manufacturing companies. And it also does so by selling to IoT manufacturing companies and third-party vendors. I'll now hand it over to Vardhaman for the unit economics.
So as we are talking about the pricing model, we are using Refit units. So as the calculation for the amount of computation which is being used or the storage being used would be hefty for a manufacturing industry. If we take just sensor data for a day, it could turn out to be hundreds of TB. So we rather than storing data completely on our storages, we would be storing the analytical data which we are creating from that, and which has been calculated over a Refit unit, and we will be using this as our primary source of revenue, which we will be giving. And this provides a dynamic pricing for the customers, so they can pay as they use. So this is our unit economics, and based on the feedbacks we got from last time, we have improvised on our pricing model. So as Akhil mentioned, we have three revenue streams. One is directly from the mid-sized manufacturing firms, where we are providing the service and providing the analytics. Whereas we are also connecting the IoT manufacturing, which are connecting their sensors. So we'll be getting the cost of each connected devices, and also the shared revenue, which we are approximating about 20%. Again, from the third-party vendors, the initial integration cost will take around $5,000. And again, we are approximating around 20% from there as well. So whole cost structure comes out to be 29,424, wherein we are also including IP protections, which we have to cash forward, total salaries for the engineers, sales teams, which is very important for our industry because we are going B2B directly. Storage and throughout capacity as suggested, we still require, because of the analytical data, a lot of storage to be catered on, and contracts and compliances. And from the analysis, we found that this is our revenue from the three revenue streams which we discussed before. And we can see that we are profitable even with the if we are taking minimum acquired customers of 3. And would like to know if we want to go deeper into this, we can still go on based on your questions later. These are the three main assumptions. One is that the mid-sized companies are taking 500 devices per month. We are getting 20% share from their revenues from both third-party partners and the IoT manufacturer. And this is our lifetime value, which we found. Why 60 months? Because the price of implementing this technology is hefty for a manufacturing industry. To remove a technology like this would to implement it will take a lot of time. So we can expect it to stay longer, and there are tons of application which can be improved on this same technology. And we will also be reducing our cost because of the implementation and integration we are making as an entity. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I guess I'm not sure what your customer acquisition costs are, but that would tell me whether your lifetime value is reasonable or even desirable. I mean, at this point, just looking at the one number seems kind of low. I mean, you said it would be difficult to implement. I assume it would be difficult to acquire. So direct sales, we're hiring salespeople to go into manufacturing firms to sell this. Overall, I think you did a good job of understanding the value propositions, the different markets, the different revenue streams, which are very, very different from anything that CDL has ever done. And I don't know how receptive they are to these different business models, but I mean, clearly it's better than what we have now. The question is it good enough to even bother with? It almost seems like it's at that threshold of, this isn't a very compelling business, right?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge from my perspective, I mean, earlier on in the presentation, you listed 4 examples of businesses that could benefit from this, and custom metal fabrication shops was on the list. And I'm sorry that you put that on the list because now I got to poke you for it. This would never be useful in a custom metal fabrication shop. It's a job shop. Everything they do is a one-off. It's different every day. It doesn't benefit from AI. The only reason I say that is you never know who you're going to be presenting to. You might just happen to present to somebody who owns a custom metal shop, and they might poke you for something like that. So if you're going to list examples, really go through the example in your mind, run a full use case. Be sure that you know for your own self exactly how this refit would benefit something like a custom metal fabrication shop. But even more so than just that specific example, really go through your mind step by step, physically walk into a building, right? And say, okay, all their machines are relatively new, so all of them have IoT connectivity, right? They're all set up, they're all wired and everything. They're just not valorizing their data, right? Then from there, figure out what it would take to actually implement something like this. Because in order for this to be useful, it needs to be responding to the actual physical dynamics of the product or the manufacturing process or whatever it might be. So a data scientist can't walk into a manufacturing firm and in one day install this and deliver insights to the firm, right? They need to develop an intrinsic understanding of the actual manufacturing processes involved. It's that implementation phase that's going to be by far the most costly and the most challenging. It's going to be by far your biggest barrier to entry, barring anything else. Regardless of costs or anything, it's going to be the human factor of the implementation that's going to stand in your way. So I think if you were to take this forward, I think you should dive much, much more deeply into that and actually start assessing the human side of this.
And yet, given all that, what you just said, if the lifetime value of that one acquired customer is barely 6 figures.
I mean, the part of the issue is, if you give somebody there's an implementation cost that goes from 21,000 to 700,000. That makes sense because everyone is going to be totally different. You don't really want to put that on a slide. It doesn't give it gives negative information to the audience instead of positive information, right? But at that point, if you think, all right, it costs somebody $700,000 to install that, and over the entire 5 years that I have them as a customer, I'm only going to make $124,000. That's not worth my time. That's not sustainably scalable. You know what I mean?
Well, one potential market that I can think of is partnering with the controller system companies, such as Honeywell, such as Rockwell Automation or Allen Bradley, and make this a module within their controller. And that goes across
higher volume,
job
shop.
Exactly.
They're going to be doing the same parts for years and years and years.
And they have centralized ecosystems that everything already plugs into.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
And you become like a module for every controller that they sell for this manufacturer. that could be a good business model for you. To
And
make
then we
good
don't have to
money.
worry about any individual site installation, right?
Exactly,
Because
that
it's
would
built
be
into their system.
built into the controller and sell it.
I love it.
Just my experience with medium and small site manufacturing, which has been my life practically, okay, has been not that I wanted to know the ticks or the tacks of a machine. It was how did I prevent it from a catastrophic human error for such as a machine to crash, okay? And I think IoT isn't going to solve that. IoT is not going to make up for somebody, okay, letting something loose inside a machine and it raising hell with what's going on. Also, you say in your slide that manufacturers of medium-sized companies are looking for a way of using IoT. I think you're overrating the operators of medium-sized manufacturers. Most of them don't even know what IoT stands for, let alone wanting it.
I think your value
Okay.
prop has got to be pretty self-evident that this is what it's gonna bring you. And it didn't jump out at the page, but I know where Refit started. I know how much work you've done.
Yeah,
and
a
how
lot
far
of
you've
work.
Taken it. So I applaud you for that. And I would encourage you to, meet with Diego, basically the CDL people, both you and Delos, right? And see what his response is going to be, because I'd like to get his feedback as well. I know that he's much more focused on Refit now than Delos, but maybe maybe this will give him more of a focus as to what to do next, right? Otherwise, thank you. Nice job. Well done. Okay, Delos, we think you're next, and then we'll finish up with supply chain. Looks like we're going to be pushing 10 o'clock at this rate, so I think the lights turn out at 10 o'clock, so we might be presenting in the dark. Is there any critical buses that people need to make or anything like that? Okay, Delos, take it away.
It's already gone.
Go ahead.
Okay. Hi everyone. We are Team Delos. We are 4 people, 2 from MEM, me and Nachiket, Ena and Ankita from MSIT. This will be the last presentation for tech strategy.
For all of us.
Delos, elevator pitch. Delos in a minute. We don't need 10 minutes, but we'll go through it. Problem, 90% of the AI models never make it to production. How do we know that? We know by a report by VentureBeat 2020. A Gartner signed a report in 2023. Like 85% of the deep learning projects failed to return of the business because of the scalability challenges and challenges in deployments. Yes. Model decay, rapidly losing accuracy. What is model decay? With the change of time, with the change of data, real world events coming in, data changes and model accuracy loses over the time. Now, what is the solution for this? Solution is here, solution is in the campus, solution is Delos. Our USP, our value props are automated drift detection, optimized retraining system, and Kubernetes infrastructure. As we have already mentioned several times, this open source is integrated with, is able to integrate with every system. Almost everyone, I would say.
So moving forward, so it's all lots of heavy words. So let's simplify it step by step. So before going on to what is Delos, let's understand what is machine learning and machine learning operations. So machine learning operations comes after implementing and developing a machine learning model. So once someone has developed their machine learning model, it needs to be deployed in different regions, different environments, and then it needs to run. So that is where Delos comes in. Delos actually focuses more on deep learning models. And in machine learning models, there are a few challenges. The biggest challenge is the drift detection, which is model performance degradation. So whatever the output of the machine learning model is, it accuracy of that model reduces over time. So that needs to be retrained. Then interoperability and scalability are other challenges, and then security. So moving to next, where does Delos comes in? So Delos Deep Learning Model Serving System is an MLOps tool specifically designed for deep learning tools, and it starts with deployment of deep learning models and then training these models, and after that after the data is fed to the model, it trains the model, and then a specific KPIs are set for these models. And if these KPIs drift from their desired values, then it automatically detects that and then retrains that. So that's exactly the value proposition for Delos is. It is drift detection, automatic retraining, scalability, as it is based on open source softwares like Kubeflow and Kubernetes by Google. It is scalable and interoperable. Going on to the target market. So we have found out that academic institutions and SMBs are the ideal markets, as academic institutions are ideal test beds because of low barriers and quick feedback from their end. And also there is a report by Gartner that 78% of new SMBs are early AI adopters. So these markets will be the best for Delos.
Okay, so these were our hypotheses moving when we started from Delos. We have already tested market demand and product fit from our interviews. Integration is one of the solid points that we already know as we are using open source technologies. Adaptability is something that we will test when we dip our feet into the waters, when we have actual business. Moving forward, market demand validation. This is like we put it from a competitor, like there's already demand. How do we know that? Because these two companies, Sharpership and Connex, have already used a similar system of deep learning operations tool. And they have took this much benefits, minus 50% reduction in labeling costs. And if I talk to about Connex, 10x more experiments with the same effort. Moving forward, interview summary. We have modified this a lot because in last 2 weeks, we were able to get some really good interviews. Of few of them interviews for head of AI analytics at McKesson, data science manager at P&G, senior AI engineer at Microsoft, and also a process engineer at Tesla. And these were only from the last 2 weeks. What we learned about from these interviews is, okay, deep learning is a strategic priority for almost every single company moving forward in their roadmap. If not now, but in their three-year roadmap, they have that. Model drift is one of the biggest pain points. And to call it out, like drift detection is not known as the industry term. They call it population stability index. And the way they mention it, the way they measure it is called some F1 score. So when I was talking to a head of AI analytics, he particularly mentioned that most of his NLP sentiment classifiers loses 10% of F1 score. That is a drift, 10% of drift within the first or second quarter of deployment. Moving forward. Yeah, I think Ina or Ankita will take forward from here.
Thanks, Vijayant and Nachiket. We'll talk about the potential address market analysis here. The global MLOps market size presented on the right is valued at 1.6 billion in 2023, but is expected to grow at an annual rate growth of 38.7%, which roughly translates to 22.1 billion in 2029. That's because industries are investing in MLOps, and there is a growing demand for MLOps solution to keep all kinds of organizations deploy and manage their MLOps models more efficiently and effectively. The potential TAM, SAM, and SOM for Delos was derived considering that Delos will be targeting small companies and startups, as Vijayant just mentioned, across various industries. The TAM for Delos is 10% of the global market for model serving solution, which comes up to be around 1.46 billion. So since we're targeting small companies and startups, the SAM is going to be between 5 to 10% of the TAM, which is around 109.5 million. This is because Delos is a 2-year-old startup with limited brand recognition and market share. Delos could realistically capture 15% of SAM, which accounts for 16.4 million in 2023. Next slide, please.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. So from our competitive analysis, we definitely can say that unlike other competitors that you can see in the graph here, Delos is a powerful, user-friendly, and cost-effective MLOps platform. It provides advanced and comprehensive feature, and with ease of usability, even for businesses without a lot of machine learning experience. Some of the application that we have noted down is experimentations and research. So for example, like a research team could use Delos to experiment for fraud detection. Its ease of use, nature, and affordability make it an ideal choice for research institutions that often face budget constraints. Second example is for production deployment. So we take an example of healthcare industry. So Delos can facilitate deployment and monitoring of various healthcare applications, including medical image analysis, drug discovery, and patient cares. Lastly, model monitoring and retraining. So Delos also can support multiple autonomous tasks such as image classification and object detection, which you can see in self-driving cars. So we can use Delos to scale these models to support a large or like a growing customer base here. Next slide, please. Here we'll cover risk mitigation and limitations of Delos. So we identified three major risks that we see. First is not able to handle like more users because we are at an early stage. More users and data as the platform become like more popular. So for mitigation strategy, as we have talked about cloud-based solutions, so we will use cloud-based solutions that can be grown and that can grow and shrink as per our requirement. We also have to make sure that we use the algorithm used by Delos are very efficient and don't use many external resources. Coming to second risk is having trouble connecting Delos to other software and services that that the business already uses. Mitigation strategies for this would be like to avoid relying on too many specific external libraries, or maybe like you can call services. And even if you use, we should have a proper backup plan in case some important services go down. The last risk is we can see that there are many market competition now in place. So to mitigate from this risk, we have to invest in research and development, and also in building a strong brand and user communities to stay ahead of the competition. I also want to highlight the limitations that we found out with Delos. First is so currently Delos scope is limited to digital system and technologies. What I mean by that is it is not suitable for organization that need to apply machine learning to physical system. It is suitable for organization that already use such systems and processes. Second limitation is drift detection efficacy. So it is actually use case dependent, meaning in some cases Delos may be able to detect drift effectively, while in others it may not be as accurate as expected. Third limitation is the ease of integrating Delos with proprietary systems is currently unclear. What I mean by that is some large enterprises are still working with their legacy systems, and Delos and legacy system may not be compatible at first. So for this, more documentations and testings are needed to fully understand the capabilities between the Delos and the legacy system. But despite all these limitations, Delos remains a promising MLOps platform. Next slide, please. So, talking about the roadmap, the main point that I want to highlight is the next crucial step. So, the next crucial step is to propel Delos growth and adoption. And to achieve this, we must focus on two key areas. First is strengthening the technical team and expanding our client base. The backbone of Delos innovation lies in its technical expertise. And to accelerate development and refine the platform, we must continuously invest in attracting and retaining the top talents under Delos team. The second was our client base. So to achieve this, we have to implement whatever the strategies we talked about. We have to implement like a target client acquisition strategy, focusing on the target market, that is SME and academic institutions. This would involve like showcasing Delos value proposition to the client, providing maybe like a tailored solution to them, and building a strong relationship with these key segments, the target market. Next slide, please.
Our BMC outlines key aspects of a refined value proposition, customer segments, and revenue model. The evolution of our BMC is marked by a shift towards our targeted customer segments, specifically academic institutions and SMBs. Our refined value proposition revolves around drift prediction, detection, automated ML model training and retraining, scalability and interoperability between an open source platform, which translates to reduced MLOps effort. Delos plans to generate revenues through membership fees, future subscription or license model, and training workshop. We're targeting academic institutions, startup, and companies planning already using deep learning models. Next slide, please.
Moving on to the unit economics. So after previous feedback, we have completely revamped our unit economics. From having a small team of part-time researchers, we have moved on to having about 16 full-time employees with engineering and sales background, and we have also increased investments in marketing and have worked on our variable costs and overheads as well.
So what we see over here, right? Okay, this when we are talking about this unit economics, it's dedicated to serving small businesses and startups. On the left-hand side, extreme left, we can see the cost involved whenever we are working with any startup. On the middle side, we can see the pricing. What we have upgraded over here is like there's a base fee for every month, that is $5,000 per customer, right, per month. And at the same time, the instance hour fee that we will be charging from the customer is $21 per hour, right? And we will be able to break even with this calculations. If we have 14, 15 customers, then we will be able to make some profit. And how, there was one question, how we are making profit? Why should people adopt Delos? Why should people ingest Delos? So on the extreme right-hand side, there are three things in which a business can save money. This is cash, cost, time. Just focusing on one of the items, we are able to see how much money we can see. Suppose if they are a startup of 100 or 200 engineers and manpower over there, so there might be an average of 5 to 10 DevOps engineers over there. We have taken the average salary of the DevOps engineers from levels.fyi and calculated over here. And we know for a fact, because it has been in many reports, that the time saved when you use a machine operation framework, DLOps framework, for training model for deployment, trains down by 30%. If your deployment is taking 6 weeks, if your model training is taking 6 weeks, now it will boil down to 4 weeks. So exactly this is 33% time saved. We have taken the lowest cap that we have seen of all the researches, that is 30%. Now calculating all the DevOps salary over the year, 7 DevOps engineers, average salary of $125,000. The yearly salary of all the 7 developers will be $875. Now you are saving 30% of them only in time. We have not even evaluated the cost savings and the cash savings of the business. And this is what benefit a business can get from Delos to $262,500, and Delos will actually cost them to 186. This is from one. So evenly, like a small business is getting a profit of $70,000 to $80,000 per year from just ingesting Delos. And this, all the industry, all this data, we have come up with the data, like we are going with a small healthcare or agrotech, and we are saying, okay, this startup might be in their 3rd or 4th year. Then we are going with all the statistics and all this data.
How confident are you that you can actually find and acquire 14 customers?
I am that much confident that I am gonna pitch you that of the engineering and product team and sales and marketing team, we need 12 members. 4 of them are already hired from this team. I know I can pitch this idea.
Confidence there.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
that.
I know. I can even hire engineers to work in that. I have that kind of autonomy. I used to hire engineers when I was working with Microsoft.
So are you recommending that you acquire this piece of software from CDL and take it on yourself as an independent business, or would you run it as part of the university, which it is now, knowing full well that working capital inside the university is almost impossible to find?
That is actually a very good question. What would I like to do here is like sit with the Delos team and this team, business team and the engineer team. And Mark, you have been a wonderful moderator over all the sessions that I have seen, even the IEEE and everything. You be the moderator over there. Make a sit with a table with them.
Sounds like a referee instead of moderator. Just keep everyone from killing each other. No problem. I'll keep you all alive somehow.
Get us a table with them, get us close to them.
So the flip side is, I mean, the working capital issue is real inside the university. So you're going to have to go into that meeting knowing exactly how much you would recommend as working capital. I can't imagine it being less than $2 million.
One thing, we already have a working capital economics for the university. This is for small business. When we expand to that level, this is for university. It's minimal. We cannot go below than this.
But it's not going to become a product with this kind of investment, is it?
But you will get to early feedback loop. Delos is still in MVP. If you don't have a feedback loop, if you don't know when to pivot and how often to pivot, you won't be able to serve.
Feel like you're kicking the can down the road. So it's an MVP today, it'll be an MVP tomorrow, and as long as we keep funding it this way, it'll always be an MVP with more feedback, but with no ability to actually turn it into a product.
I need to test all the MVP, whatever MVP we have.
You need to validate.
Validate that. all the hypotheses I need to satisfy, and then I know that there's a demand in the market, then I will enter the market. And these all the startups and small businesses will be my evangelist, will be them and not mine, like Delos evangelist. These startups, these small businesses will give the credibility to Delos, which it should have gone, which it should have already got a few years back. Maybe
What's your
Delos
roadmap?
is waiting for us.
It makes me a little bit, I guess, incredulous, right? That what should have been 2 years ago might be in the next 2 years. What you called it earlier in your presentation was a promising MLOps platform, right? That's what you tell the student in primary school when they're underperforming. What a promising young person! If only they would perform better, right? Is that what we have here? An underperforming primary student? I mean, realistically, you called it an MVP more than once, and you want to spend more money to get it to the MVP stage.
I think I cannot answer this question like if it is underperforming. How would I say that if I have not even seen the demo of the Delos?
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Therefore, we are saying like
That's the next step.
Yeah.
We got to take the covers off this, take the wrappers off, and see what's inside.
That's why we are requesting.
There's a reason why this has been neglected by the market, right? The market doesn't take it seriously. Maybe either they don't know what it is, or they see it and they don't like it.
It's ready. The market is ready. There's already one competitor over here which has only 50 employees. It's in Finland. It's a company in Finland, right? But not in US. US market, we can be the first entrant.
Okay. All right, I think you've answered my questions. You've done a great job. All I can say is the first 3 slides in your presentation were almost totally redundant with each other. You could have compressed it into 1 slide. You promised me you'd be under 10 minutes. You were well over 10. I think you were closer to 12 or 14. So
It was done with the elevator pitch, well. It was just unit economics left.
I know. Well, you had some good numbers there. I think it raises a whole lot of questions about what the actual business model is. Is it inside the university, outside the university, high investment, low investment? Are we going to just go from one MVP to the other with feedback in between? At some point, we're going to have to invest, I would think, significant resources to turn this into a real product that we can take to real customers and generate the millions of dollars in revenue you were showing, right? I can't imagine getting to 14 with the product we have today. Is that fair?
I didn't know.
Can we get to 14 customers with the product we have, the MVP we have today?
I would again like
want to see
restrain myself to answer that because I need to see the demo of Delos myself
Okay.
to evaluate.
Well, it's a shame in the last 10 or 11 weeks you haven't had access to
There's
it.
no, okay, it's a shame, yeah.
It's a shame, right?
It's a shame that we didn't get that opportunity.
Okay, given that though, I thought you did an amazing job, not having ever seen it, right? Trying to describe it or describe around it, you did a great job.
Agreed.
So, good job. Good job, guys. You were in a difficult situation, so I appreciate that. Other comments, guys, or should we move on?
I think you nailed it. I'd say we just grab the
A
next one.
roadmap would be great to have a roadmap timeline.
He doesn't even know what he's got, right? I mean,
Yeah,
if you don't know where you're starting, a roadmap doesn't make sense, right? Even Google Maps says, where are you starting from, where are you going to? Those are 2 key pieces of information. All right, starting with, or finishing with supply chain, team 4, take it away.
Well, hi everyone, myself Anisha. I hope I'm audible.
Yep, you're fine.
Good. Meet my team Ashmita, Manuel, and Neil, who are from the supply chain optimization team. And we have come up with the project of OptiLean, one-stop ERP system that focuses on resolving issues in the supply chain network. So let's talk about the problem that we focused to work on for this project. There are certain critical challenges that the automotive industry is facing, such as achieving transparency across the network, real-time visibility, and operational efficiency, due to which automotive suppliers, manufacturers, and dealerships encounter significant hurdles, such as delay in the orders, inaccurate forecasts, inventory shortages, and inadequate visibility. So that hinders their ability to make informed decisions, forecasts, production, and procurement efficiency. So there is an urge to redefine this landscape across the supply chain spectrum, where the key partners have a common platform so that they can have better planning and utilize all the resources correctly. Next slide, please. So our elevator pitch goes like this. Optilean offers a comprehensive ERP solution by leveraging cutting-edge AI technology designed to optimize the automotive supply chain. It is an add-on to the existing ERP system where it facilitates transparency, reduces lead times, and enables seamless communication among the suppliers, manufacturers, and dealerships. Next slide, please. The technology focuses on 4 core functionalities. Optilean harnesses AI algorithms to analyze real-time data across the supply chain. Now, this enables predictive analytics, demand forecasting, efficient decision-making, optimizing inventory management, and production schedules. The system also offers unparalleled transparency, allowing stakeholders to track products, orders, and inventory in real time. Now, this visibility ensures timely actions and minimizes delays within the supply chain. Optilean also operates on a cloud-based infrastructure, facilitating scalability, accessibility, and seamless integration across the stakeholders, irrespective of their geographical locations. Now, utilizing the blockchain technology ensures data security and transparency. It also safeguards the sensitive information while enabling traceability and authenticity across the supply chain. Next slide, please. There also come certain limitations with this technology, such as integrating Optilean with existing systems might pose challenges, specifically for large-scale manufacturing infrastructures. So there are confidentiality concerns as well. Manufacturers may face difficulty about sharing proprietary data within the ERP system. Now, stakeholders might encounter trouble with learning curve while adapting to the new system. Resistance to change and the need for training could temporarily affect productivity during the implementation phase. Next slide, please. The application can be used across the manufacturers, suppliers, dealerships, and ERP companies, while there are other alternatives where the same system can be duplicated across transportation, retail, wholesale, and other manufacturing sectors. We already mentioned about our beachhead market, which includes ERP companies, where we want to integrate with existing solutions, auto manufacturers, suppliers, and dealerships. Now, our hypothesis about Optilean technology is the implementation of a comprehensive ERP system that offers enhanced visibility among key partners that will lead to a reduction in vehicle delivery lead times and better decision-making. We also have our hypothesis around cost reductions that are associated with expedited orders to its ability to predict demand accurately, thereby reducing rush orders and excess inventory. It also focuses on continuous improvements where feedback from the stakeholders will drive updates and enhancements, ensuring the system remains adaptive and relevant over time. Our intended customer base will be willing to invest in the Optilean ERP system through fixed subscription fees and variable tier-based storage pricing. Now, Ashmita would help us walk through the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Nisha. So moving on to the evidence of the problem. So over the quarter or over the last 10 weeks, we have interviewed a lot of people from the manufacturing background, from the consulting background, and a lot of dealers. So all of them had this one concern, and the prospect of ERP system that would be highly that would provide a big advantage for them, and it would provide a visibility for all the stakeholders in the supply chain as well as for the customer, and this would in turn lead to the retention of the customers. So these are some of the highlighted portions of the interview that we have had over the past few weeks. Next slide, please. So coming to the market sizing and segmentation, we can see in the automotive industry, the revenue is generated with 4.3 trillion in 2022, and the ERP industry revenue is almost 53 billion. And for us, the target addressable market is around 2 to 3 billion. And with the amount and with the number of manufacturers, suppliers, and dealers globally across the chain, we have a large part of stakeholders and customers to cater to. So this market has a lot of scope for addressing, and that is why this ERP system might have a potential prospect. Next slide. So basically, our value proposition highlights the three objectives, which is visibility, efficiency, and collaboration among the manufacturers, suppliers, and dealers. We want to reduce the lead times and the costly expenditures related to different softwares that the companies are using. And we want to streamline the operation and make the communication between the stakeholders seamless. And this would in turn help and retain the customers. And this way we want to scale our business. Next slide. So coming to our business model, we have refined it over the past 10 weeks, and our key partners are the ERP companies, suppliers, manufacturers, and dealers. We have also worked on the cost structure and the revenue streams. So the cost structures would include the server patching, maintenance of the infrastructure, employees, investments, and our revenue streams, as mentioned by Anisha, our fixed costs would be the subscription model, and our variable, which we will be charging on a monthly or on a quarterly or annual basis, and our variable costs would include the customization costs, and it would be mainly based on the storage system. So we have like 3 kinds of plans based on that, which can be regular, business, and premium models. And of course, partnering with ERP companies would help us scale and help in the growth of our business. Next slide, please. So coming to the unit economics, according to the numbers that we have calculated, though it's on a high level and we need to do extensive research on the numbers and the amount of customers that we'll be acquiring. The customer lifetime value is around 420 million and the acquisition cost is around 100 million. So the ratio comes up out to be 4.2:1, which according to industry standard is kind of a healthy number for looking at the performance of our software. And the subscription model, like I mentioned already, it's an annual or monthly subscription, and the variable costs include the customization, storage system, and the partnerships. So considering that, we can estimate our revenue to be around 100 million and variable revenue to be around 188 million. And we will thus be hitting a profit margin of 13.5%. We can justify this by having a balanced fixed and variable revenue streams, and with the stability of the fixed costs and subscription, we feel like this could be an optimized, this could have an optimized revenue potential, and 13.5% profit margin ensures a sustainable business model. And in the future, our company would like to partner with different ERP companies to kind of position our product or our software in alignment to theirs. And the best way is to integrate our ERP system to their existing software and making strategic partnerships with them. This way, doing several trials and making a MVP product for the market, we want to scale and grow this through our product in the manufacturing supply chain.
Okay. Thank you. Your last bullet is something I wish you had said a lot sooner, because it's something that was bugging me the whole time you were presenting. I had no idea how a small startup could possibly compete with the likes of Oracle and you know, the big ERP companies. It made no sense until your final bullet says you're going to partner with these people, and I assume you're going to develop a module that slides into their system and then connects to all the, so it's a very distributed network that you're building here. I'm not even sure Oracle's attempted this, right? You're linking the ERP systems of OEMs and dealers and suppliers all the way up and down the chain, right? Which I don't even think that today's Oracle goes to the dealers. You're going to go to the dealer on the one end, and then all the way to the you know, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 suppliers on the other, the whole chain, right? That's one hell of a challenge. I mean, even for Oracle, right? So I mean, I get it's visionary, it's bold, but it's not clear how you're going to get there. You spend a lot of time on the market and a lot of time on, I guess, attributes that you were pursuing, which were again somewhat redundant. But I think really you need to think about how you would architect such a thing and what value you bring that, you know, any other software developer or anyone. You have IP. Do you have something that you bring to the party that's unique, or is this just an aspiration? Right now, it looked like an aspiration.
Yeah, Norton, even a little bit more fundamental question is the extended lead time in the automotive industry $250 million pain? Because that's what you say it costs. Is it $250 million pain? If it is, if the pain is less than that, you don't have a viable business.
So one question I had, any of the major automotive companies, how much do they spend per year on their current ERP system?
You don't have to necessarily answer that now, but I think also knowing which ERP system is most dominant in the automotive industry, so you know who you're partnering with. It can't be something vague and generic. So understanding that industry in much more detail is something that, you know, obviously you need to do beyond the 10 weeks that the course is constrained by. We are running out of time. I know we're going to turn off the lights very soon. So I do want to say thank you all. Hopefully you got something out of the course. I apologize we ran late, but I guess we started late. Hopefully the food was good. And did I call it or what? Lights are up, so thank you. That's the curtain closing.
I will also mention, please, for everyone in the room, never lose my contact information. I always feel free, please consider me a resource, no matter what, no matter where you are. I'll come bail you out of Mexico if we're in the same city. So
I'm not sure I would. So don't come to me for bail money.
Sure. Good. Hey, guys.
Phenomenal.
Phenomenal. I'm sure.
Remember about committee.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure. You're part of committee, right?
Yeah.
Key committee.
I'm gonna keep dragging you back for this.
There you go. Leave it like that.
I'll speak
He wants
softly.
me next.
He wants me next.
Just for a second.
Well,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
You know, I should run off the rails every so often.
Yeah.
Have a good winter break, you guys. Try to stay warm. Is anyone going anywhere?
I'll see you Thursday.
Yeah, everyone's staying in beautiful Evanston, where it's only going to be 20 degrees or something like that. Thanks to the folks online. We're going to drop off.
All of you, thank you for the pleasure.